Okay, folks, it's just a bit past 7. Today is April 20th, 2015. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Brattleboro Development Review Board. The first order of business is to review and approve minutes of our previous meeting. Oh gosh, I forgot my opening remarks. So I know many of you have been to many of our meetings, and I know a few of you have not. I give the same opening remarks at every meeting, and I'll try to get through it quickly because I know there are a lot of people here tonight. At the DRB, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrative decisions. Procedurally, the Developmental Review Board operates on the record. Broadly, this means we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties, and then issue a written decision with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that as we are on the record, this is your opportunity to comment on and provide evidence relating to an application. In the event our decision is appealed to the Environmental Court, the court will not take or consider additional testimony at its hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearing, this hearing tonight, the regulations, and determine if the evidence supports the findings and the decisions of this board. Only interested persons that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision made by the board. So I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this hearing. As we're on the record, we're going to ask that you affirm that your testimony be truthful. So if you're an applicant or you think that you may speak tonight, I ask that you rise, and I'm going to administer the oath to you. Do you hereby swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in the cause under consideration will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? Thank you. Applicants require a majority vote of the full board to succeed. That means 4 votes out of 7. If we do not have a full board present to hear your application, then we'll consider a request to continue your application to the next public meeting. As you can see, we have a full board here tonight. After taking testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the close of the hearing. While we may vote on the application at the hearing, it is the written decision we issue that controls the timeline for appeal. It should be noted that the town of Brattleboro is a party with an interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before this board. Documents provided to the board by the town planning department, town attorney, or other town departments will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant and all other interested parties. Mr. Bannon, has our meeting been properly warned?
Yes, it has.
At this time, I'd like to disclose conflicts of interest and ex parte communications. I have a conflict of interest on application 2015-27. That's our last application. And the vice chair is unfortunately on the West Coast. So somebody's got to step up here and offer to chair that application.
Well, I'll do it.
Okay?
Nice to have some notice.
Are there any other...
Conflict on 2015-20.
Okay, Bushy, conflict.
And I should disclose two in the interest. I think I would know better, but I was curious about the question, a couple of the questions of noise in the pond at the Humane Society, and I and George went out and looked at it, and the director was there, and she took us around and showed it to us where they would be located. We limited the conversation, but nevertheless we were there, and if that feels like it might be sufficient ex parte communication, we'll sit that out.
Did you discuss?
We discussed nothing about the case,
Okay.
except to look at the location.
Where things were?
Yeah.
Okay. Is anybody here to speak about application 2015-23, the Humane Society?
Yes.
Based on what Mr. Gavi just said, does anybody object to his sitting on the board, or Mr. Reed Savory?
Could you explain that a little to me? Hi, I'm Brian Young,
Well-
buyer of the property.
So this is a portion of the meeting where we have to disclose any conflicts of interest, like if I have a financial interest in one of the applications passing, or if it's a family friend or something. And we must disclose any ex parte communications we've had with anyone involved in the application. What Mr. Agave was just disclosing was that he had a communication that was not directly about, you know, the elements of the application, but did speak to the applicant, who showed him where the pond that was the subject of the application is. Is that right?
Yeah, and we were looking at the landscape to see where,
Yeah.
what the terrain was as well.
So I want to give anybody who's here planning to participate as an interested party in that application the opportunity to object if they do. And if they don't object, then we're okay. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Any other conflicts or ex parte communications?
No, James, if this qualifies or not. On 2015-26, clients of mine, Fitz Olson and Giddings, doing work for them last week. It was front page of the paper, that issue, and so she discussed her opinion of it with me. The letter that they then sent us actually reiterates everything that she said to me, so I feel like we've all been exposed to the same communication, but I want to know if there's anybody who has any worries about that, for sure. So,
I think the safe thing to do might be to conflict based on the business relationship.
has any worries about that?
Okay. Anybody else? Conflicts, ex parte communications? Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, right, yes.
So,
James, by the way, I said 26-26. I meant to 25, the tunnel one.
oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm a little confused. I'm here also for the Humane Society project.
Yes.
On Golden, fourth house up from the Humane Society.
We're going to get to all that in when it comes on our agenda. The only thing we're doing now is disclosing any conflicts of interest or communications we've had before this board meeting, and seeing if anybody has any objections to the people who are going to be assigned to sit on it, on that application. But we'll get to the substance of it later. So, for application 2015-20, I'll appoint, I suppose I'll be appointing all three of you. For application 2015-23, it's going to be all three. For application 2015-24, it's going to be all three. Actually, it's going to be all three on every single one. Yeah, thanks, Eric. Could have pointed that out to me. So as a result of the conflict, that means that there's going to be two applications. 2015-20, that's Atlantic Security, and 2015-26, Stevens and Associates. I'm sorry, 2015-25, Stevens and Associates for the Frankie's building and the tunnel, where there'll be only 6 people available to sit. That means that each of those applicants would need to carry 4 of the 6 votes to pass, to receive approval. Now, Mr. Cuthbertson indicated his willingness to review the recording of tonight's board meeting and vote on that, but I'd appreciate hearing from those applicants if they'd like to go forward or if they'd like to continue, and hope that they get a full board. Mr. Stevens?
We're happy to go forward.
Okay.
We'll go forward.
Okay, thank you. So that was easy. Next item is to review and approve the minutes of our last hearing from March 18th. Motion to approve? Okay.
Second.
Any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving those minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. Our first application is application 2015-20. Celine LaCroix for Atlantic Security. And this, you do not look like Celine.
I'll be Celine for the
Okay. Just because we're recording, could you identify yourself?
My name is Mike LaCroix, and I'll be representing Atlantic Security Corp. tonight.
Could you tell us about your application, please?
This is a commercial subdivision. It's located across from Panda North in Brattleboro. We were here in 2012, or I wasn't here in 2012. We sent a surveyor in here in 2012 and subdivided this property. But when the surveyor returned to us with the permit had a couple of conditions that have been added that made the subdivision unsatisfactory to us. The appeal date had passed at that time. We weren't able to correct it. This is a property that we still would like to subdivide, and I'm here tonight to try to subdivide it like we did 2 years ago, but this time without the conditions number 6 and 8 that were added to the plan last time.
What's the basis for not wanting conditions 6 and 8?
Okay, well, 6 and 8, number 6 is a condition that before any cutting of trees or the disturbance of earth, or more importantly, the issues of any zoning permit for any development, we would have to get a state certified stormwater discharge permit. That's something that isn't done anywhere else in town. It seems to be special to our permit, and that would mean that if we were to lease our property to something as simple as a hot dog stand, and come to town to get our permit, we would have to first go get a state stormwater permit according to that condition. And no other business owner on the street has to has that kind of condition on their permit. We would ask that that be removed. It has nothing to do. We're asking to draw a line on a survey as part of a subdivision, and zoning permits are required for any development in that district, but engineered stormwater plans are not required for simple development in that district, and we don't think that we should be subjected to a condition that nobody else in town is subjected to.
And with respect to number 8?
With number 8, it says that any future site plan that this board might approve is going to be subject to some screening along a particular parcel. It's a parcel that I sold to people, and when I sold it to them, I kept an easement saying that they couldn't put any screening along that border so that this property could be viewed from Route 5. So to require screening as part of a subdivision, when the subdivision is just a line on a survey, we believe that future screening should be under the control of the Development Review Board when the property is developed.
Okay. On lot 2, how is the water and sewer service going to be addressed once that's created?
Well, we have water and sewer. There's city water and sewer on 2 sides of that property. There's a water and sewer line that runs along Putney Road, and there's also a water and sewer line that runs along the rear of this property between us and the book press.
So the what property?
Between us and the book press property.
You said the
Well, the
something?
BDCC property.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be getting our town water and sewer off of the town sewer lines. We've talked to the town about whether to come in from the rear or the front. Sounds like he's going to permit the front.
So does that mean lot 2 would need a water and sewer easement
Over one of our own lots.
over
Right.
lot 1? Okay.
Correct.
The planning office indicated that there's a 50-foot right-of-way located east of lots 2 and 3. that's not on the subdivision plan. Is that correct?
I know there is a long-standing right-of-way along that back border, but I believe we do not have rights to that. That's why our survey didn't show it.
Oh, okay. Okay, any problem with submitting and recording that deeded right-of-way before, prior to signing the Mylar?
For the utilities,
Yeah.
not a problem.
No, I'm talking about for the other lot.
The access easement to the new lot?
Yeah.
There's no problem.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
Is Brian left?
I don't know where Brian is.
I'd be interested in hearing his thoughts on item 6.
With respect to item 6, we'd
Sure.
offer into evidence photographs of the trees that tower over the buildings and should be allowed to be cut without a stormwater permit.
Can you explain these a little more, Mr. LaCroix? What are they showing?
With respect to no tree cutting without a state stormwater permit, we're showing that the trees are towering over the buildings.
Oh, I see.
And with respect to no earth disturbance without a stormwater permit, we're showing a gravel parking lot that every year we've regraded to get rid of the ruts, and no cutting of trees and no grading is an unreasonable condition.
Okay, Mr. Bannon, while you weren't here, Mr. Reed Savory wanted to hear your input on a couple of requests by the applicant. The applicant indicates that he wishes the new permit to exclude the prior conditions 6 and 8 from the older permit, on the basis that these two conditions are not necessary and more excessive than limits in other, on other subdivision permits. And if you want to say this in your own words,
No,
that's fine.
What were those conditions?
Sorry,
regards to
condition
again?
6 is that before any tree clearing, disturbance of earth, or issuance of a zoning permit for any development, the lot owner shall provide a stormwater management plan certified by an engineer licensed to practice in Vermont that limits peak runoff from the lot to undeveloped runoff levels and provides erosion control measures during construction. I think the applicant's biggest gripe there was with the requirement that that be necessary even for the issuance of a zoning permit. And condition 8 is that future site plan approval shall include screening along the property line. The applicant indicated that that parcel is subject to an easement from another parcel requiring that it not be screened.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think a subdivision approval can or really should condition a future site plan approval. The stormwater will be covered by stormwater standards in the new zoning code. I don't think either is necessary.
Okay. Any other questions by members of the board? Are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this application? Okay, having that in mind, perhaps it's appropriate for a motion to approve application 2015-20 with the prior conditions except conditions 6 and 8, a requirement that lot 2 be provided with a water and sewer easement over lot 1, and a requirement that the 50-foot right-of-way located east of lots 2 and 3 be shown be submitted prior to the signing of the Mylar for lots 2 and 3.
So,
Okay, second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice day. The next application is 2015-23, Wyndham County Humane Society. Are you Miss King?
No, Sandy King is the current owner. I'm the executive director of the Humane Society.
Okay, could you just state your name for the record, please?
Annie Guyan.
Okay. Could you tell us about your project?
Well, the Humane Society is in the very early stages of planning a modest addition and renovation of existing space in our building. This is mostly driven by improvements to how animals come in and go out of the facility. We're not planning to take in many more animals than we typically do in a year, which is under 1,000. But we are looking to improve that experience and make sure animals get into homes more quickly, and we manage all the issues around stray animals coming in more effectively. In talking to an architect, he advised that we probably need a little more room to accomplish our goals and meet our mission. And the only direction to expand is to the north. And I know Sandy, she was a great volunteer for us, and so I approached her, and she is willing to sell her property to us. So we are looking to purchase the property, but we need to know that we can use it in the best means possible for our long-term vision. And ideally, we would like to use that property for additional outdoor space for dogs. I submitted a schematic from an architect that does include a pond and a pavilion. But to be frank, we're in such early stages. We have not committed to a plan, except to say that we do want to use it for outside space for dogs. And we are eager to work with the town, with neighbors to find a solution that works for everybody, but we're very interested in purchasing the property.
Is there a well on that new parcel?
You have a well, Sandy? Yes, and it's a shared well,
Okay.
right, with 3 other homes?
Might be 5, I'm not sure.
5. So 5 homes share a well.
Do you know where it is in relation to the proposed beach, pond, and other structures on that parcel?
Not exactly. As I said, that's a pretty rough scheme.
Okay.
And I actually am more than willing to not put a pond on the into the proposal.
Okay.
Where is the house currently located? in
You can
relationship to the
sort
pond?
of see it under the trees and the drawing that I submit. That's taken from the town's aerial view. It's towards the front of the property. If you look on the front left side of what's called the pond, you'll see the north end of the ranch house. There's a little, you could just make out the roof lines there.
Is your new driveway gonna include a new curb cut?
I also don't know the answer to that. As I said, there's such early plans. And we're not committed to a new driveway on this, certainly on the King property. And I'd want to make sure that while there is schematic on here, we're not addressing that issue at this time. So.
Okay.
I have a question. If I were to take your application, and I think you're the one that filled it out, literally, when I'm reading where it says what work is planned under this permit, it says that these plans that you talk about, what the drawing goes along with the pond and a pavilion, and the acquisition, included in the acquisition of Miss King's property, wouldn't begin for 3 years.
Yeah,
It
we
says
have.
1 to 5 years, no changes, use as rental property. 3 to 8 years, remove or demolish house to construct the other stuff. I
Yeah.
assume, it seemed like I saw in there somewhere, it said fundraising is a component in that, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Right, so.
So
that-
it's.
That could vary, that's what'll vary your 3 to 8 years start point, right?
Absolutely. There's a little bit of chicken and egg, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't make the plans till we know we have the property. then we make
Can you
plans.
tell me, can I ask you, is not this conversation that we're having about all these particulars kind of moot at this point? If she's not gonna do anything for 3 years, and in fact, the DRB permit only lasts for a year? How is it not moot?
Well, it is a real site plan, even if it's schematic and preliminary. It does.
But she'll have to come back again to do the whole thing over again if she doesn't do it for 3 years.
Yes, that's correct.
Everything that she's doing right now, she'll have to do again from scratch if she doesn't do it for until 3 years from now.
Yes.
Does it have to be redone, or can you just accept a request to renew what's there?
It would be reheard.
It'd be back to zero.
Although I assume if it
So
was
is this a
reheard,
concept review? Is that what this is more like, a concept review?
It's
As
whether
we've
it
done in
can,
the past?
it's a conditional use review.
Okay.
The site plan is conceptual, but
But she's, whatever we approve and go over and all these people testified to or for,
that can be
everyone's gotta
input.
come back if she doesn't do it within a year.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and we're just trying to know, we don't want to commit to purchasing the property and then find out we can't do what we'd like to do.
I'm not trying to be the party
Yeah.
pooper. I'm
No,
just,
I think you're asking
you know, I was
very good
reading your
questions.
application and it says, geez, it's gonna sit just
Yeah.
like it is for maybe at least 3 years, so.
It's pretty hard to predict unless someone wants to give me $1 million. They take it.
But you understand that there is some risk,
Absolutely.
that in a year from now, you'll have to return and renew the site plan,
Mhm,
and that'll be a year from now. Nobody knows.
mhm.
you've got your driveway coming from the new, or a new driveway coming across a new parcel
Yeah.
onto your present parcel. Is the plan to leave the parcels separate and have that be a right-of-way, or to merge the parcels into one larger parcel?
To merge the parcels into one larger parcel.
So one of the things you need right away before the purchase is approval to merge the lots? Is that right?
That's a good question. Brian?
Is one of the things she needs in order to think about purchasing the property, merging the lots.
Well, she's got to purchase it before she can merge them, and I think what we would do to ensure that the traffic could get to the proposed parking lot is make that merger a condition of our approval, if we did approve it.
That makes sense.
Well, right now, each separate lot is allowed to have its own access.
Mhm.
If she merges them, she may not be able to have 2 accesses per the state. And she's asking to have 2 accesses. And for at least 1 to 3 years, it's gonna kinda exist as a separate, the house theoretically it could theoretically exist for 1 to 8 years as a rental house and need its own access. At least in that context, or in
Yeah.
that use, you would think.
So we'd have to have as a condition that the applicant get a permit from the Agency of Transportation.
Well, that, as a house, Ms. King's property must currently have a curb cut, right?
Yes, it does.
So, I don't,
Is that,
unless she's changing that.
did you use that as the basis for this second driveway?
No,
Is it close to that curb cut?
it's, to the left of the pond is a tree, a drawn-in tree by the architect. The driveway's pretty much right there. And you can see it again through the drawing a little bit, the entrance
About-
off of Route 30.
About where your curb cut is drawn, the
Mhm.
hypothetical second one, there appears to actually be a buttress of gravel coming off there as if the state,
There is. Yeah.
as if the state thought, maybe we'll have a driveway there someday, and it looks like
Yeah.
that it was created with that in mind and just not utilized.
It
just-
is there, and yeah, we saw it, and
Yeah, if you were.
Stuart
actually some
McDermott was,
Yeah, there's like a little flange coming off there like they knew it when they.
Right.
Used for something.
I believe when we built the shelter,
right.
they made you move the driveway, correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
They did.
so,
There were two curb cuts.
yeah.
Yeah,
Do you have the square footage or a reasonably close estimate of the square footage of the proposed addition?
Of the, to our
building.
existing building,
To the building.
about 2,400, but again, we haven't committed to that.
And your present building is 4040?
I should know that. I think it's
Well, that's the
about,
information we have.
yeah,
Does that sound right?
3,000 square feet, I think is what it is.
You think it's 2,000?
I think the existing building is about 3,000 square feet.
Our information from our last site review, which was in 1999, is 4,040.
Oh, well, the shelter was built in 2000, so,
Really?
right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's bigger than 40 by 40. I think. No?
Just using my calculator here. So if it was 6440, that would support 25 or 26 spaces, which would be fairly close and within the 10% rule of the 28 parking space proposal.
Yeah, I did submit the town's requirements to the architect, so she was
Okay.
making that match.
How many spaces would you actually need at any given time?
On it, say a day when we're having a clinic open to the public, we might have 15 cars at a time. But
15?
1.5, yeah.
Do you think you'd ever need more than 20?
No. That's a guess. I'd be surprised.
You usually look to have as few as you can
Mhm.
when you do a site plan.
Yeah,
Well, again, we're at
Where does it
such
say that?
early stages that
Is that written, or is that another Alice's rule?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah. I didn't get that memo.
Is the plan for the parking to be impervious or pervious?
we haven't made that decision, and we would be interested in the town's opinion on that.
Are there any paved elements on the property at all as it stands? now?
Currently, no.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little in front of the little cottages that are where the parking lot is shown in this drawing. There's a very small strip of pavement.
Okay. The space you've indicated as your doggy pond,
Yeah.
is that presently like a marsh or a pond? Is there something there, or would this be a totally new body of water that you'd create?
Well, some winters there's something there, but no, it's Sandy's lawn. The stream does come down off that hill and makes a sharp turn behind the house and runs. There's a dotted line there, I think that represents the power line. So there is water that runs that way. It then loops to the left. It comes behind our building and then goes out to Route 30.
Okay.
But right now, Sandy has had that stream bermed in recent years. 2 years ago, it came over and flooded her porch. And this year, it's come through the berm so that right between our two existing property lines, there's some standing water.
Okay.
But no, that's lawn. It's not particularly marshy. I'm not an expert on marshes. So.
Okay, so we'd likely include as a condition that you contact the Department of Environmental Conservation to determine if you need a permit from them.
Mm-hmm. And if we were to take the pond off the table?
Well, I guess you wouldn't have to contact them to see if you needed a permit.
Okay.
And the fire department noted in its memo to us that a condition for this application should be that all buildings on the property meet life safety codes.
Okay, yeah.
So that would be a condition as well. Are there any comments or questions from the board?
I'd like to just follow up on Joe's question. If this is approved tonight, and the two properties are merged, the conditional use would then apply to the whole thing. So that you could walk dogs on the additional property. Is that correct?
Well, I think the conditional use would only relate to the buildings and changes to the physical land that they propose to make. As soon as they buy that property, they can walk dogs on it until the, you know, dogs get tired, I guess. Okay, I know there's some members of the public who wish to speak. Nobody's done this yet. First of all, if you've not been sworn in, please tell me, because you need to be sworn in to give testimony. And if you have been, please approach that microphone, say who you are for the record, and where your property is.
And state my concerns, or?
And then, yeah, tell us what you'd like to tell us. We just ask that you tell it to the board.
Excuse me?
Tell it to the board, not the applicant, that's all.
My name is Brian Young, 962 West River Road, and I would be like direct abutter to Sandy King's property.
Is that north?
Yes. 962 West River Road.
What was your name again, sir?
Brian E. Young. So concerns, and one of the concerns, and which was already addressed by Mr. Bushy, and I had that as number 3 or 4, was the time frame on a conditional use permit. Does it have to be used within a certain time? It seems like, you know, they're buying this as a real estate. If they weren't gonna use that only for a rental property, we wouldn't be standing here tonight. Because they would, you know, so, but they're gonna buy it and sit on it for a little while before anything's done, so, but, I mean, that question's already been raised, so I guess I don't have to
And
talk about that.
just so you know, if it comes back for the future site plan approval and you're in a butter, you'll get notice of that,
Okay.
just as you did tonight.
I think my main concern is maintaining my privacy and noise level. And I don't know if we're looking at the same architectural drawing. The one I have isn't that great, so I'm having trouble. Like, I don't see Sandy's roof line on there or anything, but
The one that says Animal Arts in the top left corner?
Animal Arts, yeah. But that's okay. So I guess, and I don't see fencing on there. And I would like as much, this goes forward, as much privacy landscaping as possible with as much buffer zone. I don't know what's allowed. You know, as it is now, you know, I have a house and whatever Sandy's lot is as a buffer zone.
Is there any vegetation on that line?
There, I have a line of trees between mine and Sandy's, but, you know, I can see, like, for instance, I was out there yesterday raking and mowing my lawn, so if that house was gone and there was people out there working dogs, that might be an issue. You know, if the dogs are startled, you know, they can see me and start barking and such, so.
I haven't been by there, and it's hard for me to tell where the house is on this drawing. Can you
Yeah.
just orient me, maybe with respect to the doggy pond?
Well, if it's where I think it's Sandy's front lawn, it would be
Oh, okay.
less than 50 yards from my house, so.
So it would be kind of near where the doggy pond is proposed to sit?
What, my house, my property line?
No, the house on the property they wish to buy.
I guess, I can't tell on this drawing. So.
Okay.
I can show anybody who wants to see, I can outline the house.
Would you mind?
Not at all.
Oh, yeah, you have that.
Yeah, I don't have a very good copy.
So this is Sandy's house, right?
Oh, so her house, the pond's gonna be,
Yeah, and your house actually shows up on the map I have. I guess it's supposed to come out as well.
Yeah, so that's just Sandy's house, and this is Brian's house.
Okay. So I'm just gonna note that the applicant has shown me that the house is roughly in the outline of the doggy pond,
In the lower left-hand corner of it, right?
in the lower left-hand corner of the proposed doggy pond shaded area.
so that would put that pond, you know, and pretty close to my house, you know. Ideally, I would like another, you know, shrubs or whatever, you know, but
Okay.
that's one of the main concerns is, you know, how much of a buffer zone is allowed, you know, I don't know.
Do you have any plans to provide for some kind of screening or buffer zone on that north border?
Absolutely. I mean, we want to be good neighbors, so I would consider fence, I would consider landscaping, I would consider both.
It
You
looks
want-
like you have some drawn in on this plan that we have.
Yep,
It looks like there's something perhaps big on the corner,
yeah.
and then two smaller ones back from that, and then a medium-sized one on the rear corner of that
Yeah.
pond. Is that
Well-
something that was part of what was proposed, or they were
Again,
just
it's,
trying to
yeah, they're trying to,
fill in the drawing?
yeah, and as a board, and I have a couple board members here that maybe can speak. Again, it's a little chicken of egg. We want to move forward, but we don't want to spend thousands on an architect's plan and then find out we can't purchase the property. So this is very preliminary, just to get the ball rolling. But we really want to be good neighbors. We really want to stay where we are. We think it's a great location for us. And so we are very amenable to working with our neighbors to make it work.
Mr. Young, am I correct that you indicated your ideal would be some screening with shrubs or greens of some kind?
Excuse me?
Did I hear you correctly when you said you would feel that a screen made out of something green like shrubbery would be appropriate?
Yeah, so to block complete vision and keep the noise down, you know, it's
There's 4 along the side of that pond. If you put 2 more in between each of the spaces there, it looks like it would, in those approximate sizes, it looks like it would fill that. In time growing to fill that border for 6 more.
Hey, Mr. Young, you said your property's above that area? Are you higher or lower? Is there no real elevation, no real elevation difference? Okay, okay.
It's
Through 30, as flat as a pancake.
Yeah, that's good, right, so close to it.
You had other issues?
Issue 2 is, so it sounds like some of the board members have been out there and looked at the site. Drainage is an issue, water is an issue there. Since Hurricane Irene has, and mentioned, you know, there's been an issue. There's a brook that comes down off the hill, runs year round, springtime, this time of year, it's running pretty good. Comes down the hill, almost into my property, probably some of it touches my property. Then it cuts all along Sandy's property, the King property,
The new, you know,
and it's quite wet there. My concern would be, excuse me, you start ripping down houses and clearing trees and moving earth, was a term I heard from the other, and disturbing that brook. How is it gonna affect the drainage? How is it gonna affect the water onto my property? Right now, I have a bit of a water problem, but any disturbance of that brook or anything else could affect my property behind me.
is it near the proposed parking and new driveway? If the applicant wants to tell me, that's fine too.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe-
Whoever can tell me first, I don't care.
The stream runs behind that dashed line that's going north to south.
So on the west side of the line?
Yep.
That would
Okay.
all need to be delineated on here where this is a proper site plan.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I mean, we certainly would want to mitigate any water issues, and we wouldn't do that by shunting it onto somebody else's property, but even if it stays as a residential property, someone's going to have to deal with the water issue.
That's a section.
No.
Water roads.
Brian, I realize this isn't quite a stormwater condition situation. Have we put conditions in place to deal with analogous issues to this?
I don't recall any, but it might be subject to state regulation, so I'll follow up with the applicant.
Okay. Am I correct, Mr. Young, that essentially what your objection is is that you are worried that this development will increase the problems that that brook already has, less room for the water to spread out, if you will.
Yeah, it's a, you know, since our, for if you're not familiar, it's behind that, all that stretch of land is pretty steep. It's really steep, and water's just, nature's taking over. There's water coming down everywhere.
Are there plans to take down a lot of trees in the new parcel?
No.
Are there plans to take down any trees in the new parcel?
Probably not many.
Is the area you would take them down near that pavilion structure? Or is it localized in a way that you can describe on the map?
Mostly in the pavilion structure, because really outdoor space, we would want the shade. There's some nice trees on the property.
Okay. And the pavilion structure is not very close to the stream?
The west end of the pavilion structure is probably relatively close to the stream.
Okay. How many trees are you talking about?
Ooh. There's not a lot of trees on the line between our properties. I have to say maybe 4, maybe 6.
And do you know which way the water drains from that pavilion? Is it like a steep slope down into the stream from there?
No. So the problem is the water comes down the hill. That stream runs just to the west of that dotted line.
The hill's on the whole west side of the property?
Yeah. This whole area of the map up is quite steep.
Right.
So it comes down and then it makes this hard turn and flows this way, and it's bermed. And then when you come over the berm, Sandy's Yard is pretty flat.
Okay. And when you're talking about Sandy's Yard, I'm assuming you're saying that because that's where the pavilion's going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mr. Young, does that satisfy your concerns somewhat?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I have a couple others.
Okay, well, let's move along to that.
Move on to that.
Yeah.
I guess the traffic has kind of been talked about, but there will be, I think she mentioned 50% more traffic than what they already have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be more noise. And the pavilion, there's no elevation shown. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I guess another concern is on the abutter. The West River is listed as an abutter. Who is the West River? Does the state come into play there?
No, it's just an anomaly of the computer program we use to do abutters lists.
So that the Department of Environmental Conservation wouldn't have to be notified?
No, it's not a water development.
Okay.
You didn't drop a letter into the West River?
No.
And one other question, I don't know if this has anything to do with this, but the types of animals that can be kept on this property, is that, I've never thought about it until, we're increasing a lot size pretty big. Humane Society rescues all types of animals. I'm just curious, is there any restrictions on what types of animals can become, this is Vermont, it's more than just, I know they mainly deal with dogs and cats, but could we start getting sheep and goats and horses? I remember reading in the paper, they rescued some horses. Just something I'm putting up, it's
No,
a
I
concern.
understand. I think one of our board members actually rescued a baby crocodile in the Connecticut River once.
Yeah.
Really?
Never again.
Brian, is there something in the definition of animal shelter that clears up exactly what animal shelter cares for?
I don't recall. I don't think it offers restrictions.
There's nothing in the ordinance now that makes clear exactly what an animal shelter means, except that in this district, animal shelter is a conditional use, and that means we look at it a bit more closely than if it was a permitted use based on a number of criteria. But I don't think I can offer you more clarity than that.
Okay. Just something that popped into my head is, so, other than that, again, I think that's,
Okay. Oh, sorry.
I think,
Before Mr. Young sits down, do you want to respond to any of the issues he's raised? further?
I will say that it does seem like a large expansion, but the real reason we want to purchase the property is if we don't purchase the property, it makes the addition to our current building very difficult and expensive and inefficient to do. It means building up 2 stories, which is just not a great design for an animal shelter and more expensive.
Mhm.
So buying the land gives us that buffer to be able to grow the building the direction we would like to grow. As far as horses, cows, and sheep, God forbid, that's all I have to say. I and my board, we're very committed to having a reasonable and viable mission. We're interested in helping dogs and cats, and when we help livestock, we do it through foster, we do it through Spring Hill Horse Rescue, we use a variety of means. We don't want to be bringing inappropriate animals on what is really quite a small piece of property. So we're looking to our long-term future and trying to make a really cohesive plan and buying the property. It's the only way we can grow. Right now we're on 1.5 acres, so this is our best chance for a secure future for the next 25 years. So that's why we want the property.
How much vehicular traffic do you anticipate?
Oh, I'm glad you raised that. So I put a high estimate. I would rather aim high and then aim low and surprise everybody with a lot more cars than we expected. Based on, I'm a member of the Society of Animal Welfare Administrators, and everybody says that when you build, add an addition, make improvements to your building, you can expect a 30 or 40% increase. So I put 50 to cover our bases.
What's the present traffic like? What does that 50% mean
Well,
compared to what you've
I
got?
did put some
You
numbers in
said
there.
4,500 visitors last year,
Yeah.
approximately 12 a day at 365
Oh, okay.
days.
Yep.
Yeah, so, and then in the other picture, you put estimated 20 trips per day.
Yeah.
Or to ask for daily traffic, one-way trips. You said 1 to 2 now and 20 per day. Although 1 to 2 now is not quite accurate.
No, I see this, and this was a little confusing. Like, was I talking about the new property? Because I wasn't. I was addressing Sandy King's property. So right now she goes in and out of there once or twice
Gotcha.
a day.
Oh, I see.
It was definitely like, wait a minute, I don't even own this property, but I'm doing the application. So it's a little challenging, but so that's why that's confusing.
Does anybody have further questions for Mr. Young before we let the next person speak?
can I bring up, I have one more, or maybe 2 more. It's on page 2 of the Form L. I'm not sure what, it says waiver, site information waiver, location of drainage pattern and natural features on the site waiver. Could you explain that to me?
What did you mean by that?
Well, I went to Brian and said, help. So at this point,
What did she mean by that, Brian?
She requested a waiver because they haven't surveyed the site yet.
Right.
Oh, I see.
But we would
But
move
we
forward.
need to know those things to properly grant site plan approval for an actual plan that was gonna go to town, right? Or no?
I think before a permit could be issued, they'd have to come with a refined site plan which addressed issues of landscaping,
To actually build this
drainage.
project. Were they gonna do it within 12 months,
Yes,
hypothetically?
yeah, the site plan approval would certainly have to have
Right.
a condition for more detail.
And so where you said no signs, you meant over there, there's gonna be no signs?
Correct.
Right, gotcha. And over there, there's gonna be no lights?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then A means
Not applicable.
not applicable, as far as, And I guess one other thing is, the property south is usable, there's a lot of land south.
Agency of Transportation, we did approach them, and they, because we were hoping they might let us put outdoor dog yards on their property, and they said no.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's it.
I've worked with the Agency of Transportation, that sounds right.
Is it that there's no septic or leach field on that property at all right now?
No, that is inaccurate. There is, oh, well, the well is not,
There's something
it's not on her property.
You all have access to a shared well, and each site has its own septic.
There's 5 houses on the well, it
Yeah.
goes from house up, 2 houses, 3 houses up from me, mine, and then Sandy's, and it starts
Right.
at Sandy's house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's 5 of us, it's all deeded.
yeah,
But
But
Sandy,
everyone has their own septic system.
right.
so it is on there. Set up,
So,
change
yeah,
that.
But even though it says an A on here, there actually is one on there.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen to be marked on this thing.
Yeah,
But again, if you were to submit a revised one, you could
know.
include that on there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We're
Okay,
just trying to avoid pouring too much money into,
I just want to make sure we hear from other members of the public.
Okay.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to this application? I saw a hand in the back and movement in the front. Let's have the person in the back. Come on up, sorry. Can you please state your name?
Karen Golden, I'm the fourth house from the Humane Society. And my concerns are Brian's as well. Also, this project would create a real burden to the properties out there. The size of it, our property value would deplete. And also, to take the town, it seems our tax base gets smaller every year. And we're going to take a whole home off the tax. Seems our tax base, that doesn't make sense to me. This would be yet another not-for-profit group in town.
Are you-
And, which they are already, but the expansion of taking a taxable property away. And mostly, the environment issue is a real concern. I have been talking with the state, and that land in there never dries out. It's groundwater and marshy, and my feeling is that we should have the wetlands of people from the state come down and evaluate it and determine, is it indeed marshland? Is it a vernal pool at this point because it's been so deep for years? The water never dries up. I have a brook on my land, and it runs all year. And there's culverts in several spots along there that drain into the Connecticut River. So if the dog yards, if we have multiple dogs with their waste, will that drain into the river? And the state has said to me that there's, and I don't totally understand it, and maybe you will, there's a thing called hydraulic gradation, which means any standing water, any waste will draw toward the Connecticut River. And the state has already spent thousands to clean up our rivers. And there's a bill that's passed the State House and is going to the Senate right now called H-35, where they're working with farmers for that very reason. If their animals are close to any kind of water, standing water of any kind, to rectify that. So that's my main concern besides the noise and other things. And I remember when the Humane Society first went in, we were told all the wonderful things they were going to do as far as landscaping and making it really beautiful. And that hasn't happened. So I'm reluctant to hear that kind of thing now. And that's my concerns.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak to this? Nobody else? Oh, please, come on up.
Hi, my name is Stuart McDermott, and I'm a board member for the Windham County Humane Society. I have been associated with the Humane Society for over 20 years, and I was directly responsible for the construction of the current Humane Society that we have now. As many people have known the Humane Society over the years, as many nonprofits up and down and so forth. The Humane Society, as Windham County Humane Society now, is a real credit to southeastern Vermont, and we serve New Hampshire, Massachusetts, in our area here. Now, as opposed to previous years, people come from out of state to adopt animals here. We've really been now quite respectable and a credit to our community here. And having had all this experience, I want to make a couple points. That when we built the shelter, the current shelter, we worked with all the agencies involved, the state and the town, anything that was involved, and addressed everything with our contractor to make sure that we were in compliance and what we thought were very good neighbors. And as you have pointed out, we are really in the very preliminary aspects of this. But I want to assure you that we have a very, very responsible and conscientious staff, and the board is completely willing and wants to work to make this asset to our community even better. So we want to address all of the community's concerns, all of our neighbors' concerns, and be, in the end, a real asset to our community.
Thank you. Anything else from the public? Yes, please come up.
Susan Kelly. I'm also on the board of directors of the Windham County Humane Society, and I would like to endorse what Stuart just said and say that we will always put a very high priority on being a good neighbor, and to remind the board that it is not so much that this expansion reflects a large increase in the number of animals. It's about providing them with more appropriate housing and care. So it's not some huge expansion of the shelter at all. It's simply a change in the dynamics of how we configure. And as well, we'll continue to grow our mission and grow our facility over time as the community needs. It's just a question of how we do it. As Annie said, do we have to build up, or can we build in a more economical way? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else from the public? Any further questions from the board?
Can I address a concern?
Yes, please.
Regarding waste from dogs. So for health and disease control issues, all solid waste is scooped out of the yard and put in a bin for compost, and it goes off to compost. So it's not left in the yards, it's not running into the water. And we do that after every dog is out in the yard because we have strays, we have animals of unknown origin, and we have parasites, etc. So that issue, I would say, is well under control.
Thank you.
You can't scoop urine.
No, but urine is sterile, so.
I wonder if it might be appropriate to, as a condition of approval, require that the applicant in the future submit a revised site plan with a drainage plan, landscaping plan, and contour lines, along with an indication of where the water flows on the property, which would have to be on the drainage plan. That the applicant merge the parcels after purchase, that the applicant determine whether state permits are necessary with respect to the doggy pond if they intend to build one, or any construction within range of the stream. Does the stream have a name?
Not that I know, because it.
No. No.
And that the board grant a waiver downward to 20 parking spaces as it sounds like no more necessary, and given the water bodies there, it probably makes sense.
And screening additional trees on Mr. Young's.
Well, that's why I said they need a landscaping plan.
Okay. But you didn't state a minimum, or you didn't state a threshold for that screening, though.
A landscaping plan including screening on the north border that abuts Mr. Young. Thank you.
On those, Mr. Chair, I like all of those, but I do have a question on the first one. The applicant indicates it may be 3 to 5 years before they're actually ready to go forward, and requiring the more detailed site plan next year before they know how much money they're working with, when they're starting, and what they ultimately want to do. Might be unfair. And having it brought forth at the appropriate time would be the usual burden.
Brian, what do you think is the most efficient procedural setup here?
We can write the conditions so that they'd have to provide it before a permit was issued.
Okay. Okay.
To meet the standards that he just described.
That's correct.
Including the changes from this. And did you read that? Did she get a chance to read that, the conditions for this one here? Where it included the bike rack and the electric charging station there? Or not the station, but the conduits for the stations. Right, those are both on there, right?
Remind me, Brian, are these a requirement for every new parking lot, the
If
conduit?
it's 20, is 25 the threshold?
It's what we've been doing on all the new parking lots, yeah.
Okay. Is there any reason you couldn't get an electrical conduit out there?
No.
Thank you.
You stick a plastic pipe in the ground out that far?
Sounds easy.
What was the other one I missed? Joe?
Technically, you don't have parking out on this site. All your parking's gonna be on the other site.
Right.
So technically, that charging station and subsequently the bike rack as well would be on when she comes back to get it. Will she need to come before DRB to get everything for the, what's drawn on this plan, but is actually the site plan for the existing building improvements? Are we granting her site plan including that site? Because if we are, she has there's nothing for specifics about that work.
No, you're correct, Joe. This is exclusively for the King property.
Yep.
Right, even though the site plan includes part of that as well.
Yes, but that's not being heard.
Gotcha.
So the bike rack and
So the bike rack and the
charging
parking is
station and
moved
the
here
knots-
Yeah.
and would
the
come into
knots
play when
spots
she comes
would be
back.
in
Yeah.
Would be in the
Yeah.
new site plan.
I'm just cheap. I didn't want a second architectural plan, so I gave you this one.
Any other comments on what I just proposed and Joe just sort of amended? Everybody feel comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, it's probably appropriate for a motion to approve application 2015-13, providing that, Brian, what's the best way to word this?
Before a permit is issued.
Before a permit is issued, the applicant submit a site plan with drawings, a drainage plan, landscaping that including a provision for screening on the north boundary, adequate to block sight and sound, and contour lines, that the applicant must merge the parcel after it's purchased, that the applicant contact the state to determine if a permit is needed prior to construction of a dog pond.
And the second access. 'Cause they need
And a
permits for
second
that, that's
access, that's right. And that the applicant be granted a waiver down to 20 parking spaces from the 26, as we understand the parcel be served under the current ordinance. So moved?
So
Anybody?
moved.
Yeah, okay. Any second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, did you go?
That'll be. I bet you they come back with
All right.
Fine, we're not going too fast.
The next application is 2015-24 Mark Bono, for NPR Properties. Could you please tell us about your project?
Hi, Mark Bono, NPR Properties. Seeking site plan approval for, we just recently renovated the Monroe Muffler into retail space and need to get parking stripes and stuff on there and some and plantings and all that fun stuff.
Can you tell us about your light fixtures?
Light fixtures are on the building. They're LED shielded. There's no reflection going out. There's lighting posts there that were existing, but they're no longer hooked up to electricity. The big ones in the parking lot. We're just waiting for a time when we can actually afford to get them down.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The lighting fixtures that are in the parking lot, the big standing ones,
Yeah.
those aren't actually connected to anything anymore. Those are
Okay.
those are obsolete, and we're just waiting for a time when we can afford to pull them down.
Okay.
Probably about the same time we put in the plantings.
Okay. Did you file for a CBES certificate?
I'm sorry?
Did you file for a CBES certificate?
That's a good question. I have no idea what that is.
Brian, what?
Sure. It's a commercial building energy standard certificate.
Was that the form that I was given after construction? I gave that to my brother who contracted the job, I think. Is that what you're referring to?
That's probably
I thought he'd processed that. I have no idea.
Okay.
Do you have an agreement with the other parcel that you also own? And we understand that the two share parking.
Yeah, there's 9 businesses between the two, and with
Right.
H&R Block and all that. We there's nothing. Every permit that we've gotten in the past when parking was a concern has said shared parking. I haven't yet formally processed a shared parking agreement. No.
Okay. Is there any reason you couldn't if it was a condition?
No. If I could quickly ask about condition 11 on there. It was the I don't know if I'm jumping ahead too far, but
Go ahead.
when I came in here last year, Mr. Goen brought up the suggestion to take the drive-through off the adjacent property, and at the time I said, you know, because of costs and stuff like that, that's not really in the wheelhouse. And Mr. Cuthbertson at the time suggested that we put a second planter the same size as the first, where these 3 tree planters here, and I agreed to that at the time. When I received the conditions later, it reappeared, saying to remove the drive-through, and that's just not something that we were prepared to do, or since it's the adjacent property as well.
What is the drive-through?
It's just it was the old drive-through for the Putney Credit Union when we rented to them way back when, and that's
Okay.
just it's.
Brian, do you recall this? Because I don't.
There was some back and forth about it, and I believe Tim drafted that condition.
Okay. And where is that proposed condition?
11. Oh, the thing I'm looking at,
Yeah,
dated
no,
February 2014.
I'm just not getting from condition 11 to what you just explained.
No, it's over number 6, the other page.
I'm looking on
Item
I
number
might be
6,
looking on an older
number
form.
11 within that.
Oh, it's the long one. It's
Oh,
not 11 with a
excuse me.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, well, can we get into a couple of small things and then we'll talk about landscaping?
Absolutely.
Has a Knox box been installed?
I'm sorry?
A
No.
Knox box?
No, it has not.
And is the striping on your plan accurate?
That's what we're proposing, yeah. It hasn't been striped yet.
Okay.
And the writing's a little small, but it was suggested that the handicap spaces be put on either side of the building.
So
See where the
what
cross
is on
hatching
the-
is?
Yeah. Yep. So that's the northwest and the northeast corner. Each of them would have one.
Yep. The sidewalk's already ramped on either end.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about why you proposed your landscaping on that northern border?
That's where it was in the past. That's just,
What's there now?
it's all pavement.
Oh, okay. Is there a reason why you couldn't have some landscaping on the west border along the road?
One, it gets in the way of the traffic flow completely. We've had landscaping there in the past, and it kind of just, between the salt from the road, kills it immediately.
Okay.
And also, that little barrier there, that little grass barrier there, that runs along Putney Road, the state actually owns 11 feet in right of way, so we can't actually do anything on,
11 feet in from that barrier? So what's that, make like a 5 or 6 rod road out there or something like that? Is that how they do it?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know.
I'm curious how you show in the drawing here, you show ingress and egress from the end, the south end there, closest to the Sunoco there. You can't turn left out of there.
No, there's a no left-hand turn line, or sign that's gonna be installed right there.
Gotcha.
I've actually been down, I've been to the state a couple of
Even
times.
exiting there, queuing there, like if even one car is there in queue, waiting to turn out, the line of sight to the left, past the Sunoco, is not that good, surprisingly, with a little bit of a crest of the hill there. And it's such a narrow slot there that as cars typically come off there, I'm not saying that I have drove in such a way, but I've seen people come off Putney Road there at Putney Road speed. And when you come over that crest and there's a car sitting there waiting to turn presumably to the right out of there, that's a, you gotta slow way down to maneuver around that thing. I never really see many cars exiting out there. Is that the only deeded way of access from that property?
From that
technically?
particular property, yes.
They don't
But
have
there's
shared
actually
right
no-
to exit through the light, isn't that, I mean, if anyone wants to go left out of there, their only safe way to do that is through that light. Right, gotcha.
There actually is a no exit sign sitting there from
I
way
thought
back.
there used to be a no exit.
No,
sign
there still
for
is.
years.
It's sitting there. It's just,
Gotcha.
we've had that there and just,
So since it's typed on there, would you continue to promote the no exit, or would you be striping that to promote the exit?
we could, quite honestly, I could do it either way. I share your concern about, it's hard to make people listen. I see a lot of no left-hand turns and a lot of no exits that people see that you see on private properties that people ignore. I'd totally be willing to put a no exit on there.
And you'd also be willing to establish some kind of right-of-way so that your property could exit through your other property?
There already is. There's
There already
11,
is.
there's 11-foot right of way going along the whole front there.
Okay.
It's even more. It's
So if
it's
you
11
post-
feet that the state owns, and then it's, you know, our stuff starts a little bit back from
So
that.
if you posted no exit from that southern egress or ingress, would you then stripe it accordingly with directional arrows or whatever that directed the exit to go towards the light, towards H&R Block or whatever?
Sure, there wouldn't be enough room, I don't think, for actually yellow striping it, I don't think.
No, I didn't mean that way.
Or
but
just
I mean,
like-
even just one arrow like that when you got pointed there, only pointing the other way.
Yeah.
Because for someone that doesn't know, it's confusing in there, you know?
Mhm.
Fortunately, we've got it figured out by now, but
Yeah.
Now, I think you indicated that you couldn't mess with the island because it's an agency of transportation owned, right?
Yes.
Doesn't this application propose to remove it?
no.
No. No, there was a small island in the front. There was just some scrap dead bushes in the front that were, I don't know if you have the original site plan, but it was right here. It basically was right like here. And basically what would happen is every year, you know, snow plowing and everything would just tear up the, you know, pavers and, I mean, the railroad ties, and it would just kind of, it was a very inconvenient place to put a planting. Really messed with any flow of traffic and in getting in there especially.
So there's no place that you can put some landscaping apart from the area to the north of the property?
Well, other than, you know, we toyed with the idea of putting something along the building, but EFIS kind of, you put moisture next to it and you're in for a disaster. It's just gonna rot the stucco from the back. As far as putting something right in front of the building. And as far as anything out, it's, you know, we're getting into state land if we get too far out there.
What about on the south side of the building?
In the behind,
Yeah,
Well,
or is that just beneath a hill?
Sandry, you know, this lawn here, you know, I don't know if Sandry would like me to cover up their viewage of their building. If we planted something there, I'm sure that would be an issue.
Could you, is that area on the south side that's not paved, that little odd-looking shape?
There's a driveway back there, or it's basically, you know, just a right of way. I don't know.
Yeah, there's no.
We
I was
could
just
plant
thinking,
something back there, but I just don't.
A tree in that south corner.
There are quite a few there.
Oh, there are?
Yeah, there's, the way, this doesn't show the entire property. There's, you know, right up here, there's tons of stuff, there's tons of trees coming up. Behind here, there's tons of trees between the two
Yeah.
properties.
Can you turn that so
Oh,
I
I'm
can
sorry.
see where you?
There we go. Here's Putney Road.
Uh-huh.
And so all along here between Sandry and the Monroe Building, there's trees. And then all behind, there's trees and a hillside. And
So the row of trees that's showing on that,
Mhm.
are those the ones that you were saying, those are gonna stay there?
Those are gonna be planted.
Those are gonna be get
Mhm.
planted? Okay, and the light fixtures there, those are the ones that are coming down?
Those are the ones that are disconnected and I would like to bring down, yes.
Okay. All right.
All the lighting on the building is LED and shielded. And our bike rack.
Back there, isn't there actually a street light back there somewhere? A tall pole light? Or are those just your lights?
Those are just our lights, yeah.
Those-
Yeah, those haven't.
Your pole lights.
Yeah.
Take those 3 poles down, 3 years, 5 years. Make sure they do this.
How long would it take you to take down the pole lights?
I don't know, it'd be nice to have a couple of years breathing room, only because we just spent a fortune getting that thing renovated, and we're definitely catching up.
2 years.
Okay.
Brian, do you have any way of confirming whether or not that right-of-way makes landscaping on the long island parallel to Putney Road impossible?
It's just not on his property.
It's just not his property? Okay. You request an increase in parking spaces. Could you tell us why?
There's 9 businesses in that parking lot. When H&R Block is really cooking, they actually park on this property with their employees, because otherwise their employees, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio with 10 employees and 10 customers, kind of clogs our entire other parking lot. So we kind of tell the employees to park in certain spaces over here, and now with AT&T, Curbs, and Campbell and Boyd, you have 10 employees at any given moment in that building. Prior, when it was Monroe, we had 24 parking spaces approved. We just asked for a little more because we cleared, without adding, we didn't add any pavement basically, and didn't add, any square footage to the building. So because it was no longer garage doors sitting there, I figured it wasn't too unreasonable to request a couple extra parking spaces.
Have you been filling up these parking spaces, the 24?
Oh, yeah.
And your experience is that a big reason for that is because it's used as shared parking with the other parcel?
Yeah. No, that parking lot stays pretty packed, especially tax season.
Right.
So how many will it be total between the two of them?
30.
29, if not 30.
That's 30. 30 in the former Monroe lot. How many are there next door?
Oh, I see 30 now.
On the next door lot, I'm sorry, I don't have that
That's all
on
right.
me.
17 sound about right?
Give or take, yeah.
And that's not enough.
Yeah, no.
Okay. And you're gonna stripe the handicapped lot, the handicapped spaces with the little handicapped symbol
Yep.
and sign it, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it'll have the striping and the handicap signals.
Electric cars and bicycles allowed?
What's that?
Electric cars and bicycles allowed?
What is the current situation with respect to stormwater?
I don't know. We do a pretty good job with all the stormwater that comes off of Putney Road. We never have issues with flooding in that parking lot. It's been pretty remarkable. Even Irene didn't flood anything in that parking lot.
Okay. There's a note in our file indicating that staff observed some standing water in a catch basin in 2013.
Oh, that was this front one. There was a pothole around the front one. We had Manning come in and shim that whole area around it.
Okay.
It was I'm sorry I didn't delineate that on the
It's
picture.
okay. But there was a problem with standing water, and you
It was
raised,
basically like a pothole, it was a sunken area in a pothole. It was shimmed and fixed.
and that's been fixed. Are there any areas of standing water at the moment?
No.
Are there any areas where you could replace pavement with something that might let the rain through?
We're gonna do that in where the trees are and make that, that'll be all one. They're not gonna be individual spots. It's just gonna be one big,
It's gonna be a long,
long planting.
what are the dimensions of that planting? I
Um,
see that it tapers, but,
It actually rises upgrade too from the actual parking spot area. That the tip of those spots rolls up where
Mhm.
that wedge of triangle is before it then plateaus where the drive-up's
Mhm.
ramp is, right?
Yeah, I guess
So
it's,
how will the water get up into there? The only stuff that'll sheet drain into there will be what goes across that drive-up space, right? And
I
that's the
guess.
highest spot in there, so nothing really, you're thinking of that being a rain garden, it's a little, it kind of slopes up. It'll absorb what comes through there, but
Right,
not much water will run uphill.
yeah.
Yeah, we've never had issues with, other than there was one time when somebody put giant bark mulch in and clogged the storm drains and it ended up flooding our basement at Sheer Designs, but other than that, we've never had an issue with flooding in that area. Not
Okay.
like Sherwin-Williams.
Where's the low point? Is it to the rear?
Yeah, I believe
Towards,
so.
Towards discount beverage direction, that way?
Discount beverage.
Well,
Oh,
the printing guy.
Yeah, the two seem about on the same level, the two storm drains that are in that parking lot.
Yeah.
Seem about
To
the same
yours,
level.
same road, yeah. Do you know which way they go out of there? Where do they head?
I have no idea.
No clue, but that's town maintained?
Yeah, well, one of them is,
So when it's time to clean the catch basins, the town comes and does those?
yeah, because they have the right of way for the sewer for all those apartments up top
Gotcha.
that come down through the
So
parking
that
lot.
spills down through there too?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Brian, how did we have a condition on here for former drive-through if it's not on this parcel?
I don't
It was
think
six-
all the details of that
We
change.
couldn't though, right? I mean,
Couldn't,
doesn't seem
unless he's
feasible.
had them merged at one point.
Right,
You had these always two different things, didn't you? One was the drive-in and one was,
Yeah.
this one was the drive-in, right? A&W.
This one was A&W, yeah.
Yeah.
is the northeast corner used for traffic, or is that a low point at all? Should be where you'd back your car out of that handicapped
To the
space.
dumpster.
Right here
This side.
or here?
There,
Right here?
yeah.
That's just this is a hillside, and then
Does any of your water drain out that way?
no, there's a storm drain right there.
The place where you indicated you're gonna put a bush.
In the front?
A shrub on the corner in the front,
Mm-hmm.
is that just,
There's actually bushes and signage there now.
okay, and it's not, is that, I mean, it's all.
No, that's open. That's landscaped. There's a couple. There's I think 2 or 3 shrubs there right now.
Are there any further questions from the board? Are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this application? Members of the public who wish to speak to a more creative solution for landscaping, frankly, but I understand your reasons. Given that there's no further comment, it might be appropriate at this time, if the board agrees, to move to approve this application, providing that a CPS certificate be filed, that there be a shared parking agreement between this parcel and the parcel owned by Mr. Burnett just to the north, filed in the land records, that the lot be striped adequately, including for the 2 ADA parking spaces, that a Knox box be installed, that there be signage restricting exiting from the southern connection to Putney Road, that the overhead lights that are presently not used be removed within 2 years of the date the application is approved. Am I missing anything? So moved? Brian, did you have a hand up?
Nope.
Oh,
Second.
okay. Any further discussion?
Did you get the shared parking agreement?
I think I said the shared parking agreement.
Yeah, you did.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. The next application is 2015-25, Mr. Stevens. So Todd, you can watch this one from the audience, you can leave, whatever you want to do,
Oh,
but you shouldn't be out there.
okay. I will.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Hello. Can you tell us about your project?
Sure. First, I'm Bob Stevens with Stevens & Associates.
Craig Miskovich from Down Jacqueline Martin.
So we're here tonight to requesting site plan approval for the construction of, or maybe I should say an amendment of a park that you've already approved once. This is for the Brooks House project. And the current site plan, the approved site plan, and actually what was built over the last couple of years looks something like this. Harmony Lot sits out here. This is Main Street, High Street. The tunnel is located here. The Frankie's building, which is the building that, one-story building that we own that was former Frankie's and a long time ago was the boiler building for the Brooks House, sits up against the building that Bast owns here. And then we have some carports parking for our residents here, and then beyond that is a municipal parking lot. So the current site plan has some parking on our property. There's about 10 spaces that we use for residential parking out in this lot closer to Harmony Lot. There's a few parking spaces that are dedicated for the college as short-term spaces right across from their entrance. And then this area where Frankie's is and a few remaining spaces, we have a current permit which allows us to construct a park there and eliminate both tear down Frankie's and build a small park. I want to talk a little bit about that. It's been our intent from day one to try to build a public space back in that corner. We have gone through several iterations. We've yet to figure out how to pay to build a park. It's not something that generates a lot of revenue, and we think it's sort of a good thing for the neighborhood. And so we've been working on different solutions to that, and I think we're sort of making some progress. So what's before you today is actually an application for a larger park than what's currently approved. If you look at, there's two options. One is if we restrict vehicular traffic through the tunnel and still keep the parking spaces for the college. And then the second option, which is the one that we would like to build, given enough funding, is a fairly, now you're starting to see a fairly large plaza without any vehicles in there at all, other than driving in sort of a gated entrance to get to the parking for our residents off in the area of the carports. So I want to talk a little bit about what we have in mind in this plan and why we think it makes a lot of sense. As we've said earlier, well, let me back up a little bit. We believe that the success, and I think we're seeing this around the country as well, that successful sort of urban places are really sort of driven around what we call placemaking, places for people to gather, sort of nice environments. We did some of that on the inside of the building. The atrium space was an effort to build some inside public space, and although we're still working on sort of filling that with artwork and decoration, so it's an ongoing process. That space has had a tremendous response from the public. We have requests for events in there all the time, so it's sort of active, alive, and sort of supporting the whole building as a whole. The outside space, we think this is a very good spot for some more defined outside space for a bunch of reasons. One, right now, with Frankie's building and that kind of dark kind of parking area behind it, it's a little bit out of sight. This whole issue of safety, security, you can't see past Frankie's from the Harmony lot, so there's sort of a dead area in there that we think is better if Frankie's is removed and you can see all the way back in here. We also have a location, and it's a little different. Some of the other sort of outside public spaces we have, if you think of Plenty Park or the park at the foot of the hill, they're nice amenities for the town. They dress up the streetscape a little bit, but there's a lot of traffic noise. There's a lot of sort of sound implications to hanging out there. It's not the greatest place, or not necessarily as good a location to hang out as this one would be, because we're not located on a busy traffic way. This is sort of internal to the Harmony lot, and it's south facing, so it has good sight, good sun, and it has what we call pretty good edges. You talk about public spaces that are successful, they tend to have edges that are permeable. We have one of our main entrances to the atrium is here. The front entrance to the college is located here. So their school effectively would face onto this park. And then the bottom of the building that Bast owns over here Much of that is already retail. You have the double doors for the backside cafe and I can't think of the name of the retail store that's here, and then there's a bookstore back here. So we really see this. If you think about the Church Street Marketplace, I mean, that's really what we have in mind for this. It's not a rural sort of green park. It's more of a hardscape with storefronts that would face that and keep that active, and then a place for our residents, for other people downtown, for the college students, a couple hundred college students to get outside and spend some time outside in the nice weather. So that's the vision. We've got some islands with planting, really to provide some passive seating and break this up. There's an island on this edge because this edge of the building, the back of Fitz Olson Giddings building, has no windows and no doors. It's a blank wall, so we're trying to just buffer that a little bit. And we have cars on this side, so we've got another planter on that end. Pretty simple design, but kind of following the sort of framework that we think about for creating sort of lots of different places for sitting and some nice views and sort of a more attractive gathering area. Some of the other features we should talk about, we would like to put sort of a gateway to close this off. Originally, we've had people that think this parking area is part of the Harmony lot, even with those carports. It's just sort of high-end public parking. So anyway, we'd like to narrow that down a little bit with a gateway structure and change the pavement texture throughout. So this is showing as permeable pavers, similar to what we've got down at the co-op. If you think of the plaza outside the co-op door, that would be, with some bands of concrete through there. This is maintained through here as 15, it narrows up to 15, but it's closer to 20 feet all the way through until you get to the tunnel of an area for us and the neighboring buildings to have service vehicles come in. We're still going to have loading, unloading, fuel vehicles that need to get into there, and emergency vehicles. So the fire truck needs to be able to drive in here right up to the back of the building and set out their ladder truck. And so that's sort of left open so we can have both service vehicles and emergency vehicles down through there. And then finally, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the tunnel. We are proposing with this application to close off the tunnel to regular vehicular traffic, to put a couple of bollards there that are removable. And that was actually, that was our intent, or I should say, it was our desire to do that early on. And I would say there's been a little bit of misunderstanding or misinformation about the history of this that I'll try to clarify. First of all, the tunnel is open because we asked to have it open. We applied for this site plan originally with the tunnel closed off, and one of our anchor tenants was very adamant that they needed to have that open if they were going to come into the building. And so in the middle of our application, we changed our application to open this up and applied to have a roadway through there to serve their needs. They have since, because they've occupied the building and they're seeing how things are working, realized that they don't need that. They've also given us the option of moving their parking out of here, which gives us the opportunity, sort of once in a lifetime opportunity, to really build a substantial sort of and high quality public space. So that's what we'd like to do is to restrict that. We think that it's a whole lot safer for pedestrians, that you can't see if people driving in. It's very narrow. That people will be able to be comfortable walking through here without cars driving through, and then this is going to be a much more high quality space because of that. Now, a little more history on the tunnel and public access. It's been suggested, and I think there was a letter to the editor recently, that the town wants to have that open. The town actually leased access from the former owner of the Brooks House for many years. There was a lease, they paid money to the previous owner, they took care of the snow removal. In 2011, that lease expired, and the town was very adamant that they did not want to renew that lease. And to our knowledge, we've never been approached. Nobody's ever come back to us and said, we'd like to open that back up. So the town had a lease for access. They don't have a right-of-way. There is no public access through here, or public right-of-way through that space. And so I'm not quite sure where the understanding came that the town, at least, and we even asked, I don't think the select board have even met or had this conversation. So if there's a forum, and I'm not saying that we would be against having that conversation, if the select board or the traffic safety committee feels like that's important, they're welcome to come talk to us and decide if they want to negotiate opening that back up. But we've never been approached by anybody to do that. The other thing, and I think again, it's been implied that, that this was something that the DRB asked for, and as I said a moment ago, it's not. We asked for it, We also feel it's a little unfair to sort of place this question on you because your purview for site plan approval doesn't really include proposing a public right-of-way through a private piece of property to serve the neighboring property. So for instance, if an applicant comes in and you need access, circulation, and parking to serve that applicant, that's within the purview of this board. But if in fact it's better, and it probably is better to have a connection to make the street network better, or if it's better to drive through somebody's property to get to public parking, that's not, you can't really, as a site plan review condition, say, yep, we're going to put a public right-of-way through a private piece of property. It's really not before you. At least we don't think it is.
You're going a little fast. Could you go over this last point again a little slower?
Yeah. I think it goes back to the reason for the access. So if you review a site plan and you say, this property has so much vehicular movement that this property needs to have 2 accesses to serve its parking, then that's a legitimate reason to require a second access to a property. However, if you as a board say, we think you should have an access through here, and you as an applicant should build a roadway and maintain that roadway and plow it for the public to use a right-of-way through a piece of private property, that's not really before that's a public. That's a sort of a taking, I guess is what you'd say. That's a matter before the select board to negotiate with a private landlord, not something that can be applied as a site plan, a condition of site plan approval. So it's the reason for the access that's important. If you felt like this access is needed for us to service our 10 parking spaces, then it could be applied. But if you think that the access is needed, and I think you may hear arguments saying, well, we need this access because it's better to access the Harmony lot, or it's better to have a cut through here so that people don't drive through Main Street, that's providing a connection and a public roadway system. That means it's a public right-of-way, and that's not something that can be imposed. We don't think it's something that can be imposed on a private landlord. Does that help? Does that make sense? Okay. And again, I'm sorry to sort of put you guys in that place, but that's what's going to come up. Yes.
I got a question on trees with a ladder truck and apparatus.
Yeah.
The width, I mean, I'm looking at it, and the width of the trees on the straightaway coming in, I mean, is the potential, what size of tree would they be to make it so ladder equipment could not be hindered in there?
We think they can still put the trees up. So these trees, we always draw these circles at what we call 60% maturity, so 20 years out, first of all. But these trees are similar in size. They're deciduous trees, so they'd be sort of the size of these over here. Unfortunately, our site plan shows these trees as, the circle on that is probably this size.
Yeah.
They're huge, these very large, I think those might be locust trees there. So those are pruned, and the ladder truck can still get in and can access those upper areas. And we think that they're okay here, and I think the fire department has looked at this and said that they think it's okay as well.
I think from the fire department.
Yeah. I think their comments were they wanted to make sure there was at least 15 feet, and we've got more than that for them to get in here. And it's pretty common for us to sort of propose some kind of shade like that to break that up.
What kind of trees will they be?
I think that those are honey locusts. I think Adam submitted some supplemental information to Brian. Yes, I think that's the case. So they're full-size deciduous trees. Yeah.
Can you talk about the other alternatives?
Yes.
Or the other alternative?
The other alternative, right away here. This alternative, in the event that we can't find a suitable location to replace these parking spaces, it keeps the parking spaces and sort of starts the park at the end of this turnaround. So the park is a little bit smaller. The rest of this is all the same. It's just gives us the option, if you will, of keeping some of those parking spaces. So one final comment on the closing of the tunnels. There's been some subsequent conversations. You should know that the Fitz-Olson Giddings has a right-of-way. The town doesn't have a right-of-way, but Fitz-Olson has a right-of-way through this tunnel. Bass Corporation has a right-of-way through this tunnel. Some of our tenants have lease requirements that say that they can have access. So there are other parties to this that we need to seek approval from and work issues out. And it sounds like that some members of the select board might want to talk with us about opening that up. So I only point that out to say that we think whether the tunnel is open or closed, we can meet the requirements of site plan approval. And we'd be happy to have a condition that gave us the option of saying to have it open and closed. So if this should change, other people come to us, we don't have to come back to you. Again, it's, if you feel like your requirements are met and you want to give us that flexibility, that would be useful as well, so that if something changes in the conversations over the next several months, we don't have to come back again.
What's the word for the things at the end of the tunnel that restrict the vehicles?
Bollards.
Bollards,
Yeah,
thank you.
removable bollards, by the way. So you can,
Okay,
you can move
yeah.
them.
Are those suitable for emergency access?
We're going to close it down so that you can't get a vehicle through there, but if you take the bollards off, that's the intent, and then you'll be able to drive right over them.
And they'll be able to do that?
Yes, yeah. And that's why they make them removable, actually, so that people can drive through them.
How they're removable for what purpose? For like an emergency?
Yeah, or if for some reason you just need to get them out of the way to drive through there.
I know, but I'm just curious, an emergency vehicle can remove them very quickly?
You have to go out with a key, unlock them, and physically, it's sort of like opening a gate. I mean,
Yeah.
emergency vehicles have full access. You know, they'd come through, and
Right.
actually the fire trucks have to come in this way, they
I-
won't drive through.
Merely trying to understand
Yeah.
what removable meant.
Yeah. It's kind of like having a gate. You know, you have to get out, open it, move it out of the way, and then drive
Yeah,
through.
okay.
And there's a wide variety of these things. I mean, after 9/11, they started making them where you could have hydraulically, they drop into the ground, and, you know, probably for more money than we will ever afford, but, you know, there's a wide variety of bollards.
Does this provide for lighting?
It does. We have most of our lighting already exists. So if you go out there today, you'll see there's an existing municipal light there. We have very nice ornamental lights that sort of come down this edge. We've got a light out here, and we're adding 2 more lights of the same style that's there in this, and then in a larger view, there's one actually in the middle there.
Downcast?
Downcast, shielded. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. What's the caliper of trees that you propose putting there?
What we would put in is probably, I think you guys require 2.5. We put in larger trees than that, but I don't know that I specified them. Happy with a condition that says 2.5 to 3.
What was the species of tree?
They're, I thought they were honey locusts.
Yeah, they are.
Honey locust, Brian, thank you.
Those are the ones with the thorns?
They don't have thorns. They're sort of a good street tree, and they have that sort of, if the leaf, they have the sort of little petals on the side of it, so they're small leaves, but they kind of bunch together. You see them a fair amount in these kind of hardscape spaces. Yeah. They're large deciduous trees, so they branch high.
Are there further questions from the board?
Did I hear you say, Bob, that Fitz, Olson, and Giddings has a right of way through that tunnel
They do, yes.
for ingress and egress?
It's a little vague. It says it's for access. It's for access. And they certainly, they have a right of way. They're interested in maintaining that. They need access to their building for maintenance, as do we. So they really
Isn't there a
do need to
question
get
about a
through
trash dump?
maintaining that.
That, you're both gonna share that?
No.
trash Location or?
No. We have our trash is actually back in the end here.
And that what you have drawn in there, is that theirs? The one in the
No.
corner of their building, right there?
No, and this is just a trash can. It's not a
Oh, okay.
dumpster. It's an ornamental trash can. It doesn't need to be there. It can be any number of places. We have a
Gotcha.
couple others out here already. Yeah. That's just a trash can. It's not a dumpster.
George, you had a question?
Yes, we got a note from the tree board, or I guess it's from Brian.
Oh, yeah.
Would you be open to discussing the type of trees on the tree board? They seem to be leaning toward ginkgos.
Oh, yeah, they like ginkgos for some reason. I wouldn't say that we're against it. It's like there's a whole wide variety of trees, and I'd be happy to have them talk with our landscape architects. So I think what I care about, I think they need to be deciduous. We have this row of dual trees that'll provide a nice canopy, some shade. And ginkgos have a little different habit, if I remember right, but. Yeah, are they columnar?
Yeah.
As opposed to branching wide?
Yeah.
I seem to think that they branch lower, but you can always prune them too, but I can't remember.
Well, what the tree board said is there are columnar varieties that would fit
Oh.
well.
Yeah, I don't know if I want columnar there. I think we'd rather have something branching.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's 15 different ways to do this, but we're sort of looking at developing that canopy and then pruning it out so we can get the ladder trucks up. But columnars can be very narrow and tight too, and we'd like some shade.
Just one other thing. If, in fact, the tunnel stays open,
Yeah,
I would have concerns about turning this into pavers.
yeah.
So that it looks like it's a park and people just wander back and forth where traffic is.
I think we'd probably keep it pavers rather than changing to asphalt with curbs. There's a sort of philosophy about traffic management that there's actually a term called Vonner, which I think is a Dutch term, for where they call it a living street. And then there's a bunch of things in Europe and England where traffic engineers have figured out that if you build a place for pedestrians and let cars drive through it, that the behavior is different than if you build a place for cars where you have pavement, curbs, line striping, and then you have pedestrians walking through. People feel with the cars like they own it, so they drive faster, they don't drive as slow, So in so many ways, we'd probably keep the pavers. And the other thing that we don't like about this design or the current condition is, this is the front entrance. It's literally 5 feet off the edge of the pavement for the college. And so if cars are going through there, in any case, we really want them to be uncomfortable. We'd like them to be uncomfortable driving through. And we have, these pavers, or the type of pavers, is what we used for the plaza down at the co-op. If you drive in there, they're holding up pretty well. It's been a couple of years now, and I'm seeing a little bit of settlement. But those are, they're made, in some countries, that's all they use. They don't use blacktop, but it does kind of end. But those are a different kind of place.
My concern is that the students should think of this as their campus.
Yeah.
And they're just going to be wandering all over
Yeah.
through there.
Yep, we agree. And it's in many ways, what concerns us most about the tunnel is walking here with your back and people pulling in. I've always been comfortable walking through there because you can't, you just don't know if somebody, and it's very narrow. And so we think both people will feel much safer. And from a security standpoint, now once we've opened this up, we'll have good lines of sight. And that this could be a really special place. I mean, we're looking at something that hopefully will be a reason for people to come to town. I mean, it's a little less convenient than driving through from a vehicular standpoint, but that tunnel hasn't been open since 2011. I mean, we've been 4 years, and we're down there every day. I really haven't seen any significant traffic issues because it's closed. So I would admit it's better for traffic. It's always better to have more connections. But this could be a special space for us, and we think it's a much more active, it's a better spot for a park than any others we have in the downtown area. It really is. It'll be a nice place for it. Yeah.
If you build a full park,
Yeah.
a full big one,
Yeah.
if the tunnel is closed, how did it go in the winter there so far?
Yeah.
Where did all the snow go?
Yeah, we shoveled it. No, it literally.
It just vanished?
No, we have to, we plow it up and then we load it up and we truck it out of there.
Really, you took it all out of there?
Yeah. Actually, the same thing happens in the Harmony lot.
Would you keep that whole area open in the winter?
Yeah, we would. We'll have to keep it open. Yeah. And I don't know, whether there may be some piles in here, but keep in mind that this whole face, these will be active retail stores over here. So you've got to get to those stores. We've got to get here and here. And we've got to keep this open, so there's not a lot left. We'll have some obstacles out there, but yeah, we have a sidewalk crew and a paving crew, and Steve Zaluzny's been did the snow removal, and he does the Harmony lot as well. So he's out there.
Is there any provision at this point for an electrical outlet that events can plug into with?
Right.
With the building's permission or something?
Yeah, we actually have outlets out here on the carports, one there and there's one over there. But I don't disagree that we don't have anything in there, but you can add them to the base of the light posts.
Things that would handle speakers and...
and movie projectors. I always thought you could project a movie on the back of Gene Giddings' wall. There's a blank wall there. It'd be kind of a cool thing to have have a outdoor.
A Super Bowl party.
A Super
perhaps.
Bowl party, perhaps, yes, that's right. I don't know that we have an easement to project things on Gene Giddings' wall, but if they didn't mind, that would be, so yeah, I think that's a great idea. We should do that. So we do have lights, we have power, we have 4 lights out there in that space, so any one of those could have outlets. And it is the intent to sort of, these kinds of spaces, you want to have events, you want to program them, you want to have music. And again, because it's isolated from the roadway, I mean, there was music in the park, in Plenty Park, for a couple of years, but it was always a tough venue there because of the sound from the traffic. This would be really much better. This dais here, we're thinking maybe a stage as well, or something for public art. But, yeah.
Anything further from the board? Open it up to the public. Could you just stand and speak in?
Hi, my name is Lawrence Williams. I'm the founder and president of Oak Meadow Independent Learning. And we happen to be the tenant in the Brooks House. We have about 3,500 or so square feet, but one end of our space goes right over top of the tunnel there. We have some offices in there and a little conference area and a larger conference room on the end of it. And just to be brief, because I think Bob did a great job of handling the history and all of that, and for us it would be a great inconvenience and I think a disadvantage and a certain danger in having that tunnel open. First, just the noise for us of cars going underneath of there, because we have several windows that are right on that tunnel and on the street on either side. And secondly, the exhaust fumes coming out of there would certainly not be something we'd want to be coming in our windows all the time. But most important, we have a lot of children. We're a K through 12 school, kids learning independently. We have a lot of younger kids, middle-aged kids, high school kids coming into that tunnel area from the parking areas across on High Grove. A lot of them park there and then come down and come into there. It's worked well so far with that area being closed. But most days when I'm down there, I see some of the parents and kids that are with our school coming in and out of that tunnel. And so I have great concern about the dangers to them to have cars swinging down from High Street, swinging into that tunnel. As Bob said, they're walking with their backs. So I think it's very important to keep that tunnel closed as they're proposing, but also opening up that area in a way. I think it makes a great outside area for all of these, because we share the same floor with CCV, Vermont Tech, and it makes a great living area, moving area for the students that come to us. It kind of expands that usefulness and the beauty of the Brooks House into the outside, opens it up to the community a lot more. So I just wanted to express our support for what they're proposing, and hope it's viewed favorably.
Thank you.
Also, Brian, there was Michelle Simpson-Siegel, our executive director, had sent an email to you. So did you just want to make sure you got that?
Yes, and it's been circulated to the board.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Kate Anderson. I'd also like to speak to the tunnel closure, if I may. I believe the larger question is, how do we best enhance the viability and livability of the downtown? If the tunnel is closed, and there are various ways to do that, the vehicles arriving from the west, rather than being inconvenienced with the tunnel closure, and by 2 blocks of extra driving at the most, would find the opportunity to see the various and interesting shops and businesses on Main Street and Elliott Street. They will be reminded of these businesses rather than the out of sight, out of mind mindset. There are various methods to block or greatly discourage drivers from specific routes. Many American cities and nearly any city in Europe easily demonstrates that public activity is encouraged, not discouraged, when the pedestrians' or person's safety is accounted for over the vehicle's ease. With tunnel closure, is the message closed for business? I believe not. I believe more to the point it is we safely welcome foot traffic. We would see quantities of people if their safety were the primary concern over quantities of cars. However, my support for the development of the green space carries with it requests. Please do not make the landscaping or furniture generic. Please include and allow the talented artisans of Brattleboro to work with you. Please open your planning to authentic placemaking. Please do not put up no loitering signs. Please do your best to relocate the college parking. Brattleboro still languishes in the doldrums. There's a famous quote, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." So I very much endorse the tunnel closure, this park, the idea of arts, music, visual, Super Bowl, okay, maybe opera. I would ask us to consider creative placemaking as we go forward. Thank you.
Does the applicant wish to respond to any of that?
I think we're happy to, and I think share sort of the same goals, so we think we're heading in that direction. Yeah.
Yes.
May I get up?
Yes, please.
Was I supposed to be sworn in or something?
Oh, you weren't sworn in.
I agree.
So why don't you go up to the microphone so we catch you saying "I do." Do you hereby swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the cause under consideration will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
Can I approach the drawing?
Yes.
My name is Lori Rowell, Rowell. I work with Gene Giddings at Fitz Olson and Giddings.
Some lawyers don't need to be sworn in.
Well, I'm going to
I
testify
think-
a little at the
yeah,
end.
yeah,
yeah.
Right. Okay, can the board see me? We're this yellow building here that has the ramp on High Street, and we have an easement in that tunnel. In a lot of ways, we should be seated at this table as having an ownership interest in that tunnel. But we were given notice of the hearing simply as an abutting property owner, and that's, I think we're a lot more than an abutting property owner. So we have a interest in this, and we've had it since 1949, if you go back in our chain of title, and it's repeated 3 times in three different deeds. It's repeated. It seems to me very clear. I've read easements for about 25 years now, and the easement is the right for use for ingress and egress to and from Elliott Street and High Street on foot and with vehicles in common with others. And it goes on, at present, such right-of-way is under an arch, but this right is conveyed subject to the reservation of the Hotel Brooks to substitute any other new right-of-way and to facilitate the ingress and egress. So it's pretty well, I mean, it is a broad easement, but it's a pretty specific easement also. We not only have this easement in the tunnel, we have an easement to access the rear of our building. It's not a beautiful building from the back, but it's our easement, and we have our fuel deliveries here, we have our air conditioning units here. Anytime there used to be a dumpster there, and our ventilation got all screwed up for our air conditioning. This is our door. There's been an increase in graffiti. The more private you make that area, the more trouble you're gonna have. When I leave at night, and I'm usually the last one to lock the doors if it's not Gene Giddings, I go out here, I walk up High, and I head up High Street. I'm sorry, head up Green Street. Since Green Street's been closed, it's me, and I'm by myself in the dark, and the dance classes aren't going on anymore. And as soon as you block off a road, you've got to think long and hard on something like that. You're not going to have cruisers coming through here if it's blocked and you need a key to unlock whatever they're going to put in the way. So when I walk up at night, you've made it more private, darker, and a little bit scarier, to tell you the truth, when you close a road. And when I come back in the morning, there are more liquor bottles on that hillside. So when I'm headed up the hill, I wonder when the guys are there that are drinking the liquor. So I'm just telling you that if you block it off, consider, I think it'd be a better park if you had access through here, because you'd have people going through here more often, and an occasional cruiser, and occasionally some traffic. So I think that's, let me just check my notes here. So we're 2 easement holders. In my mind, we belong at the table. We weren't invited to be at the table. We weren't part of this application, but nonetheless, we're easement holders, we're abutting property owners, we're members of the public. I'm the one who's going in and out of there at night. I'm concerned, and it's not a subjective thing. This is, nobody, as far as I know, nobody's been hit in the back in that tunnel, and our easement's 65, 70 years old, so the tunnel's been open for a long time. But that's, we're okay with this park. We'd like to see the park, but I think you're doing a disservice to the safety of the area, and you're violating our easement if we have people going through here without our permission. The other thing is, my office is right here, so we're probably on the other side of the man's wall who's in the tunnel, because we had some fire damage when, so this is my office. I have a great view of Pliny Park, and when I, just on Friday, I saw a woman stumbling around and people stumbling around, some of whom are my clients, some of whom are not. But I was very glad to see that cruiser pull up right next to her, and a fire truck came in too. And she was combative, and I didn't want to see him parked coming around here. You know what it's like on Main Street to get access this way in. I'd like to see cruisers pulling in this way. And while I do know that they don't all come from the police station, if they're on Western Avenue and they get a call to come on in, then I sure would like to see them coming through the tunnel. And as for Jean Giddings' wall, Jean's obviously not here. She's on vacation. I don't know how she'd feel about movies on her wall, but that is an ugly wall, and I don't blame you for wanting to cover it up. But it's our wall, and it's our easement. And if it makes people uncomfortable to have traffic, think about the people who are walking in the dark alone at night. They're the people who ought to be the ones who are the most comfortable. And they're the ones you should be looking out for. So go ahead with your park, but don't shut down the tunnel. You're gonna have a better park if you've got some traffic in here. So I would that's about all I have to say.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to address those remarks?
Just on the easement issue, yes, there are 2, as Bob mentioned, 2 abutters have rights of way over the property. We've had conversations with them. We'll continue to have conversations with them, and we'll talk about modifying that easement to accommodate the park.
In many, the other concerns, we feel like we can, certainly the access for maintenance of the building, we don't intend to obstruct that, and the ventilation it can be free flowing. There was a dumpster, in front of the ventilation before. We can plant things that allow us to soften that edge and still allow air to move and people to access the building. So, fundamentally, people will disagree. There's going to be opinions about, is it better from a safety standpoint? Is it really the traffic, the issue? There's actually a lot of studies that have been done on site safety and security. The principal issue is, activating building quality spaces so that all of us hang out there. Parking lot, people can hang out in the parking lots too, but the average person doesn't want to hang out in the parking lot. The average person might like to hang out here. And the other more important issue is good lighting and what they call passive surveillance. It's this issue of having windows that look out on the spaces. And we think that without Frankie's, with this edge activated with shop owners who are going to sort of take ownership of this, with our lines of sight opened up into this space, that it's actually going to be a whole lot safer And it's private property, it's still private property. I mean, we know that we have some challenges with, vagrants and people that are using inappropriate behavior. We all sort of deal with that downtown, but we've had pretty good success in the 8 months that we've been open with our people engaging, getting to know who these people are, having relationships with them, moving them along at least, not solving problems, but we can sort of keep them through our property. And I think our tenants will say that we've done a pretty good job of that so far.
Is there lighting in the tunnel for the pedestrians at night?
There is, and it's up now. We added lights with the renovation that's already been done. There's a series of lights down the center. And this area is tremendously brighter than it used to be. If you drive into the Harmony lot, you'll see that there's sort of average low-level lights, and over here this is quite bright. So even with that, I mean, the only dark corner is this edge back here now, which we hope to eliminate shortly. Yeah.
Further comments from the public?
I'm Bill Murray, and I hadn't intended to speak about this, but I just wanted to make the comment that I think that the proposal that they not have to come back to you about the tunnel and whether it's closed or not in the future is a really good one. I think they've acknowledged they can't just block the tunnel to the people who have a right of way, but it doesn't make it a public access way. So obviously they have to work something out with the Fitz-Olson folks and the other people who have a right of way, but that doesn't mean that the town automatically has a right of way to make it a public road. So I think for them to not have to come back to you makes lots of sense.
Mr. Murray, are you an abutter, or do you represent anybody involved in this? Or?
No, I'm a taxpayer and I'm an interested party.
Okay, just
by
great.
being here. And I have done business with Bob Stevens and also with Lori Rao.
Okay.
But it just seemed
We're
like
right in the middle now.
It just seemed like that. Well, I guess that there's some uncertainty about Lori's comments about not blocking off the road. I don't know that she has the right, with a right of way, to say that it should be a public road.
Yeah.
She has the right to say they can't encumber my access because I have a legal access. But she can't say the town road should go through there. And I think for them to have to come back to this board, if the select board wants to approach them and say, please don't close the public road, would like to negotiate a new lease with you, that's a whole different thing. And so I just want to be clear that Lori's right of way should not be impeded, but she doesn't have a right to pass that on to the public. And when I first heard about this, I thought, oh man, I love being able to bail out and cut through there instead of getting stuck at that light. And I had to think about it, it's not my property, it's their property. And I think that we've talked about impervious surfaces and adding landscaping and greenscapes, and how many people do we know who've added green space in the downtown at their cost, not looking to the town to do it? So I really encourage you to approve the proposal.
Thank you. Further comments from the public? Yes, sir. Please come up.
My name's Richard Evers. I live in Brattleboro, and I feel if it weren't for David Gardenstein's letter, I wouldn't have the nerve to stand up here, because Bill Murray's a good friend and my ex-landlord and a realtor, my realtor, and Lawrence is my neighbor. I've broken bread with him, and so I wouldn't, and I'm not a very knowledgeable. I've only been here about 12 years in Brattleboro, but I agree with David Gartenstein. Let me ask a real basic question. I asked a guy in the back, but he said he didn't know because I didn't want to make a fool of myself here. Will any parking spaces be sacrificed because of the park? Any parking spaces?
You mean in the Harmony lot?
Yeah, in a Harmony lot.
No. You mean public parking?
It wouldn't be any different in terms of parking spaces, whether the park is built or not?
Right, correct. That's correct.
Not public parking.
Right.
Public.
We have
Right.
private parking spaces on
Right.
our
Okay.
land, and some
But
of those are going away.
I just think I like the idea of green space, but not in a parking lot. It feels like gentrification to me. And I think that parking for businesses is really important in downtown. I think the downtown's hurting. I think I agree with David Gartenstein's letter. I want you to take another look at that, at the advantages of having access to that parking lot. I feel bad for Lawrence on the second floor with his business. He's more of a stakeholder than I am because he's there every day and I'm not. But I think I liked it the way it was. And of all the years when I lived in this town and you were able to come in from High Street, and I think other drivers will find it easier to access that parking lot. I think it'll be better for business and better for the downtown. And while I agree with parks, I think it's a parking lot. And so it feels like gentrification to turn it into a park. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the public? Yes. By the way, is everybody sworn in who's been speaking?
I have.
You have, okay.
My name's Jonas Murray. I own the retail store in the corner. It's Mallison. It's a fantastic boutique, and you should all shop there. I just got back from overseas, and I had no idea that any of this was happening, but a bunch of people asked me to come here and talk to you. Jane from Basket Books wasn't able to make it. She gave me a list of things to ask about access, which actually I'd like to know too. For access for emergency vehicles, what would access for loading be for our businesses as well?
Sure. So the emergency vehicle, so this is essentially still a roadway from Harmony Lot all the way in. So we can drive trucks, tractor trailers. I mean, we have all the access for the Brooks House building coming, a lot of it's coming right through that door. And you guys, both fire trucks, delivery vehicles will all be able to drive right up through here to service the properties in the bottom of that building. Keep in mind, it's not at all unlike Church Street. If you think about, if you've been to Burlington.
I had a push cart on Church Street.
There you go. Yeah. So and that actually has bollards and chains, so they close that down. They open that up in the morning to allow service delivery vehicles to come in, and then they close it up. We don't have any obstruction at all on this end. So the only bollards are here. We think that the gateway and the pavement type is going to discourage people driving in. Plus, there's no way to get out. So this is free to be driven in anytime, and it's intended to be used for all those purposes. Yeah.
So I also have the space next to the double doors. I have
the one behind Frankie's.
I have the whole bottom floor.
Yeah.
Other than Basket Books.
Yeah.
I do a lot of loading for craft shows and things like that. So
sure.
Would I be able to bring my truck in and load in and out easily?
Yeah. Now,
and
I don't know
should that just be at a certain time?
You really have the same access you have now.
Okay.
If the aisle that's there now. So there's parking spaces here.
Yeah.
And then Frankie sits out here. So this is the same access. Yeah, there's really no change.
Okay, so I won't be in the way, because there's that
Yeah.
ramp, I just dolly down that ramp usually.
Oh, inside the double doors and then you go down the ramp? I don't know what, yeah.
So I'm also a tenant, a residential tenant at the Brooks House.
Yes, you are. Right.
So Louise is a tenant.
Yeah.
And she couldn't be here today. She also asked me to ask questions on behalf of most of the tenants. They would like it to remain closed to traffic.
Yeah.
As a safety issue mostly. And for myself, I think also there's a lot more going on now walking around than there used to be. So.
Yeah.
And
you feel this way as a tenant as well?
I do. I like it better, yeah, without the driving. But I digressed. I'm sorry. I should finish Jane from Basket's list. And these might not even be questions for here. Maintenance of park and area, she wrote.
We're charging you and the other tenants. It's actually, yeah, that's a good question, but we should talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be the maintenance is intended to be paid for by the building owners surrounding it, but effectively, it's part of the common area maintenance for the Brooks House to take care of the park. Yeah.
basically like it is now.
Like it is now,
So
yeah.
we have 5 feet in front of our businesses that we're responsible for.
Yeah, yeah, and so.
You've been good enough to actually shovel that for me. which
I'll
appreciate.
talk to Eric about that. I didn't know that.
I mean, no.
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah, right.
He didn't spend any of his time. How long will it be closed completely for construction? She wants to
Yeah, that's a good question, and, you know, part of that.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too, actually.
Part of that comes back to, you know, we still have some fundraising to do to be able to build this. So this is the first step of many down the path of trying to build this park. We need to build a lot of community support. We needed to get the DRB's approval to get the process started. So we have some fundraising to do, and then the actual construction. Typically, what you do in these things, there's going to be a time when we tear down Frankie's where it's going to be impossible to allow people to go to have temporary access. So there might be a week where that's being dropped and filled, particularly for basket books. They're going to have some trouble. For you guys, I don't know that that's necessarily a problem. In fact, the first piece of this is already sidewalk, you know, where you guys are over here.
Right, yeah.
So what we would try to do is sort of the way we built the last one. We'd provide, you know, temporary access, build a piece, swap it over. And I would expect it would take a couple of months, maybe even 3 months to build that entire thing out. So there'll be a period of time while it's being built, there'll be some
I
disruption.
think there's just a little bit of
Anxiety.
We're all a little sick of
Yeah.
having construction in front of our
Bet.
businesses.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in the long run, she may be a little worried about getting through the short run.
Yeah.
Type of access. Okay, so that's her. Louise also wanted me to point out that.
Can I ask a question before you change?
Of course, yes.
Aside from the time period when the demolition of the Frankie's building is occurring, you can provide for temporary access to the tenants on the west?
Yeah, there'll be, again, it was sort of the way we did it last time. I don't think we closed, did you? You didn't end up having to close at all, did you? When we built the sidewalks over there now?
We did
We had,
not.
we had different routes. We had routes here and then we built stuff and moved them.
From Bread Loaf is
Yeah.
very accommodating and amazing
Yeah,
with GC
yeah.
actually. But I
Yeah,
mean,
we would
obviously
agree.
it was hugely inconvenient. But
Yeah, yeah, and we tried to
you
put
can't leave a
signs and
burned
stuff.
down building, so.
Right. So we don't think so. I mean, I think there's a period of time where when Frankie's comes down, that's gonna be a big hole, it's gonna be filled.
Right.
That won't take long, and then we'll work around to keep the businesses open, or we'll work with them in some way. I mean, we've also you know, if they need to close down, we'll figure out how to mitigate that as well, so they can stay open, yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Who else? Like 5 people today. So Luis also wanted me to point out that the traffic was worse when the tunnel was open because people would try and take a left coming off of Main Street and then back everybody up behind them because they couldn't get through. It has been closed for a while and it doesn't seem worse over there. I mean, by the co-op is bad, but
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with it.
Right.
I think
People
that's-
didn't leave that space open. It used to drive me crazy, but anyway.
I think a roundabout might have worked, but anyways. Other business owners I talked to, the Backside Cafe, thought it would be better to leave it open to foot traffic only. And Michael, the owner of Brilliance, Turquoise Grill, and Tulip Cafe, also thinks foot traffic and not open for driving. And thinking in retail, foot traffic is generally better than driving, because when you drive through there, you don't look at our stores. If you're walking,
Yeah.
you have a little more time.
Yeah.
I think that's what everybody wanted me to ask.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? Anything else from the, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
If foot traffic.
Just go to the microphone, so we want the people who are watching on TV to hear
If
this.
foot traffic is really better for business, then I'm wrong. And if that helps the downtown business-wise, and that's an established a fact that I'm unaware of, then I would change my mind on that. Because I'm in favor of helping the businesses, and if foot traffic is better, then I would be for closing it.
I mean, I should clarify, if this is better for business, that's great, although that's not one of the factors that we're tasked with determining.
Okay.
It's a fairly limited review in that sense. Are there comments from the board or questions for the applicant?
I can't remember. I have come to Brattleboro for the last 4 years, but I just moved to town. The tunnel was one way, right?
Yes.
So you couldn't come in from Elliott Street and go into the lot and go out that way.
Right, that's
You
correct.
had to come in.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Mr. Stevens, are there any reasons that if we added conditions that the businesses in the west side be able to access the south end for delivery?
South end, what do you mean? I don't understand the question.
You talked about delivery and loading vehicles.
Yeah,
Is there any reason we couldn't have a condition of the permit be that you allow loading and unloading through that south entrance for the businesses in what we'll call the Bast building?
Yes, that's our intent, and actually they have a right to that. Whether this building, that right-of-way access is what gives them legal right for loading and unloading around that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we wouldn't obstruct that.
Okay, and how about, do you think it would be feasible to have a condition that that you ensure temporary access for those tenants during the construction, except during the demolition of the Frankie's building?
I believe that we'll be able to meet that goal, but I think we'd rather not have a condition, because if not, I mean, there's other ways to solve that. We might be able to pay them to go on vacation for a week or something. There are sort of other options other than that.
Okay.
I make a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now we're good. Yeah.
We can leave that to private remedies. I'm just curious. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think this is about ready for a vote. Does anybody have any issues they want to talk about?
You weren't talking about restricting pedestrian traffic through there, are you?
No, we want pedestrian traffic.
Right.
We want this to be an active space. We want pedestrians. We want more pedestrians.
Well, technically, you still could restrict that even.
Well, we could, but it's not logical just because, our use, so our building needs that for pedestrian access. All of our, we have a building that's open on 4 sides, and most of our pedestrians probably come in the backside. So this building just gets fed from all the different parking locations, and most of the town is coming in this direction. So they're all sifting through here. Yeah.
So with that in mind, I'd suggest we have a motion to approve application 2015-25, including a requirement that those trees be a minimum caliper of, what is it, Brian, 2.5 inches?
Yes.
Okay. That was the only condition I had. Was there another one?
Is it accurate to say that nothing in our approval can in any way, shape, or form compromise any of these individuals' valid rights to access or egress?
We feel they're sort of
Ingress,
two
egress,
separate
whatever you
things. I
call it.
mean, we have an obligation with neighboring properties with rights of way. We have to meet that, and we have to meet so they sort of both have to be met. And we don't think this is the forum or that you need to sort of arbitrate what that is. We have to solve that with them or another
Right,
court.
we can't really regulate that's a private legal matter. If
we were obstructing their right of way.
If you guys violate her right of way,
Right.
that's a private legal matter for you lawyer types to.
That's right.
And that's why
draw
Bob mentioned
on.
we'd like the approval to allow us to continue to restore cars if we can't come to that resolution with our butters who have easements over the property. We'd
Right,
rather
so
not
that
get into
needs to be one of the conditions,
Yeah,
right?
I
Please.
think we'd like that as a condition.
Gotcha. How Craig just said, that if they can't resolve their negotiations with those that currently have easements to that for traffic, then they're gonna have to return the cars going through there.
Or, we'd have to come back to you and ask to open it again. So that's why if we can get the condition that says it's our option, then we can go either way. Really.
Yeah, Jim.
Okay. I'll get to you as soon as we second and have discussion. I want to make sure we don't miss anything here. A condition that pervious pavers be used, that light fixtures be downward and appropriately shaded, and that emergency vehicles be able to access even with the tunnel closed. So let's just have that motion first.
Do you want to make a motion that they may have access for electrical power?
Oh, that was already in that, wasn't it? In the previous, didn't you have the bicycle rack and the other
We have bicycle
electric
rack.
charging conduit in your previous site plan for the whole building?
We don't have electric, we don't have any charging
No, I
in
was
this
talking about
electric.
for events.
The lights and the outlets
Oh.
and the poles. you're
Outlets
talking
and the
about.
poles.
Oh, you said those were already in there, right?
No, I said we can add them in. They're not. We have lights, so we have a place to
Well,
put
we
them.
probably don't have to make it a condition.
Yeah, I think that might be a little outside our,
Yeah, I think we'll cover that.
Does does it also have to have both plans in it?
All three.
Oh.
The first one's a current existing condition.
Yeah, there's two,
No,
there's
just
you
option
have
A and B.
alternate one, A and B. So those need to be in it.
I'm not sure I follow you.
Well, but
There's two plans.
They have one
Three
with the,
They got the submission
current.
and A and B all.
Yeah.
but they have these two plans, one with the parking spaces from the college and the other one without.
Yeah, but I don't think we need to approve the plan per se, simply amending our decision
Okay.
so that it's consistent with those plans.
Okay.
Because I think if we do it this way, they'll be left to do that, and, it's their property, they can do it as long as we agree that the permit's appropriate. So I still need a so move
So
from
moved.
the floor. Okay.
Second.
Okay, so I'm opening this for discussion. Mr. Rowell, can you just go use the microphone, please?
It would be our position as Fitz Olson and Giddings that you don't have all the owners in front of you. You've got your applicant, but they don't include the owners. I think this should have been an issue that was addressed before this hearing, and I just want to state that for the record.
I understand,
You wanna
but
answer that?
even if you're not the owner, they're there because they're the applicants, not the owners, and strictly because it applies to the permit.
Yeah, I looked at the applicant and it says owners, and it's just got the two of them. And I would say that at a minimum, you should enter a contingency or a condition that Fitz Olson be considered.
Well, it's clear to me that Fitz Olson has that right, and I don't think the applicant contends that that right-of-way exists.
Right. But I
The
don't
only,
think that
the
makes-
only reason that we're not considering that significantly in our findings is because we don't have jurisdiction to deal with, right-of-way disputes and private property
Do you have-
disputes. So
Okay.
if the things that we're tasked with reviewing, such as parking circulation or landscaping, if there were real problems here that made it so that a majority of the members of the board felt that the permit would not be sufficient under the town ordinances, then we'd surely deny it. But if it is sufficient, the fact that we know of this private dispute, I think, causes us to feel that it's appropriate to issue the permit and let the parties settle the private dispute where that dispute gets settled.
Okay, I understand that. I just want to make for the record, I think part of your job is to make sure you've got the owners present and that they were all notified.
Mr. Chair, if I could note that the owners are present and they've been notified. Even if we're going to call an easement holder an owner of real property, Ms. Rowell's presence here and participation is notice and an opportunity to be heard.
Okay. All noted on the record. Any further discussion on this or any other matter? Okay, in that case, with those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to take a 5-minute break just to allow people to use the restroom if they need to. Okay, we're back audio. We're back on TV. This is application 2015-26. We took a 5-minute break. It's 10 to 10. My wife's probably going to kill me. Mr. Stevens, you're back.
I'm back.
Could you tell us about your application?
Sure, and with me Bob and Buzz, you want to introduce yourselves? We'll-
Sure. Bob Allen, president of the Wyndham Foundation, also president of Grafton Village Cheese Company.
Buzz Schmidt, I'm president of Community Wherewithal, a partner on this project.
So we have actually a very exciting project to share the beginnings of it with you tonight. There's sort of more coming down the future. This is actually a fairly simple application for the Retreat Farm to ask for site plan approval, change in use, and an Act 250 review criteria. So the change in use has to do with the farmhouse. So just to orient you, this is Route 30, Linden Street. This is Grafton Cheese here. And the Retreat Farm, the farmhouse you really see from Route 30, if you've never been in there, this collection of barns is probably one of the most architecturally significant and unique sort of courtyards. A very classic ornamental sort of courtyard back there. And we have a partnership between Buzz and Bob's organizations that are working to try to repurpose those buildings and revitalize the farmstead. And this is really step number one. We'll be back later with another step. This step is to take the farmhouse, which has been used as a residence to date, and convert that into a few offices. So it's a change in use from residential to office use. There's very minor sort of work going on along that house. And then second of all is to sort of what we call clean up the barns and clean up the courtyard. In the current courtyard, there are some fencing, concrete fences for animals that we're going to tear down. We're going to sort of regrade this. There's a bunch of gravel driveways, and then build an 8-foot wide walkway that circles the perimeter. There's a couple of lights, 4 lights, some power for lights. There's a few underground utilities and a few trees on this edge. But this is all in preparation of trying to think of how these buildings might be used in the future for other uses, to sort of perhaps bring different uses in, which we'll be coming back to you for another application. But the intent with this is sort of perhaps to sort of show the courtyard in its finest, what it could look like. Probably also there's going to be some sort of maintenance work on the barns to repair clapboards, paint, make sure the roofs are whole, clean out the barns, get things spiffied up, and then start working towards the next application for how those barns might change use in the future. So a very simple change in use, that site plan as we just described, and then the Act 250 preliminary criteria. So just again, there is actually reduction in impervious surfaces. There's a lot of gravel surfaces, there's concrete surfaces. All that's coming out. Everything we're bringing back in is pervious concrete pavers, or asphalt, pervious asphalt. So this will be a much more pervious surface. There is no additional parking. The parking needs for this will be handled in the existing parking infrastructure. We will still be able to get emergency vehicles in and around here, and you'll see the fire department has met and given our office some feedback. This is a blow up of that courtyard. So you'll see there's a band of grass pavers, which are the sort of geotextile pavers that go into the grass that allow the fire truck to drive in and get to these internal locations.
How wide is that?
What's that?
Sorry, how wide is that?
It's a total of 14 with the grass, so it's 8 feet of pavement and then another, whatever that, 6 feet to get to 14 feet.
Sorry.
That's okay. And that's it. I think that's it. I'll sit down.
Could you discuss the adequacy of the parking? I know you're not adding.
That's it. I think that's it.
Is that enough?
Yeah. Currently, the those parking lots, Bob, maybe you want to speak to that. We probably use about half the parking lots now.
Or
on
less,
those
I would
places.
say. Yeah, certainly no more than half.
Yeah. So there's quite a bit of reserve capacity in the system that's out there.
Okay. And you can do cut sheets for the light fixtures?
I think we've sent some in.
Oh, you have?
They're goosenecks on wooden poles.
Oh, those are for this, okay. And it'll be LED?
And it looks like they'll be LED.
Will there be, I feel like we just went through this, but you indicated some shade trees will be planted?
There's a couple, yes.
All right, let's talk about the caliper and the species.
They're columnar.
No ginkgo.
So it looks like there's no ginkgos, but they're 2 to 2.5 inch red bud, typical of 4. And honestly, I don't know what red bud is. Google that for you.
It's a very nice trees.
Okay, all right, we're good.
As long as long as you have sun.
Are they ornamental? It is south facing, and so there's
Yeah.
a lot of sun in there. So they branch sort of like a
Yeah,
crabtree
and
or
they
an
turn
ornamental?
different colors
Ah.
depending on the season,
Ah.
so they're very pretty.
Great. So that's
No
what
order
we
to
have.
their branches.
There are some existing trees closer to the farmhouse that we're gonna try to keep as best we can. And those are fairly large mature trees as well, so. good
2.5 inches will do it?
That's what we've got drawn. I assume that we looked in the ordinance. Is that what the ordinance requires, do you know, for mills?
Well, we can just say caliper consistent with the ordinance.
That's fine with me, yeah.
Was there any impact on the use of renewable energy?
No impact.
And will the building be renovated in conformance with the commercial building energy standards?
No, we're not doing a wholesale renovation. It's a very, what we call a paint patch rehab. We're kind of moving in as is, doing some ADA access, but the amount of renovation is pretty modest, very modest.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the most involved thing you're doing?
There's a handicap ramp being built into the porch. There's a bathroom downstairs that's being turned into a handicap bathroom. And there's a kitchen where I think we're taking a wall out to make it sort of more of a kitchenette. And then everything else is, just floor painting and floor changes. We're not getting into the insulation envelope, for instance. We're not doing the siding. We're not touching the thermal envelope to any degree. Just to move in.
Are there any other questions by members of the board? I think it might be appropriate to move to approve this application, provided that the landscaping and specifically the caliper of the trees be consistent with the town ordinance. I don't know why, this has never come up before, but it's like the big thing tonight. And that the lighting be consistent with the cut sheet as filed after the application. Oh yeah, we got the bike rack?
Do we need a bike rack? Do we have a bike rack out there?
We're not doing parking.
There is not a I'd be happy to put in a bike rack.
Yeah, we'd happily accept that.
We'll have a
It may
bike
not-
rack.
it may not
I don't
be
know
the
why, but
subject
I always
area.
miss the
Right.
bike
Yeah,
rack.
On the
oh,
property.
yeah, on the property.
Spirit of David Cameron, right?
That would be.
Yes, that's true.
I think Buzz was just pointing out that it may not be in the subject area, but on the property somewhere, that's fine with us.
That's fine.
Bob's
Um,
biker here.
So bike rack, cut sheet, trees. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Very much.
So finally, application 2016-27. Okay, application 20, what?
We never asked, but I think it looks like it's fine.
Looks like it's a,
And I was gonna put it.
looks like we're good, Jim.
It looks like our brains are all in the same place because it's 10 o'clock and we've been here for 3 hours.
No, the septic unit is done.
I don't have enough sun.
So that leaves.
So coming up to the table, this is application 2015-27. I do have a conflict, and Mr. Gave is going to chair and finish the meeting out. It didn't occur to me, though, that we're going to have a 6-person board for your application. I assume it's late enough at night that you don't want to continue and ask for the full 7, but we generally entitle our applicants to do so. Do you want to go forward, or?
Yes.
Okay. So having a conflict, I'm going to remove myself and Mr. Gave. Oh, did I take your?
Yeah, do you have that one from?
We're getting an Irish wood.
There's a little town called.
Okay.
What's up? We're fortunate it's late, everyone's asleep. My hair look.
All righty, thank you. Would you introduce yourselves and tell us about your project.
Sure, my name is Jennifer Beatty Engel, and this is my husband, Christian Engel. And you want us to tell you a little bit about our plans and as detailed as possible, or?
Yep. Just give us a review of what you're doing.
Okay. Our goal is to make this as long and drawn out as possible.
That's what we're hoping for.
Not late enough.
We have this room until midnight. So take your time.
Excellent. For those unfamiliar with the location, we have a purchase and sale agreement at the Thomas French, the brick building in West Brattleboro, which used to be the old post office. And we'd like to open a cafe and retail store called West B Social. We'll have a selection of wine, packaged craft beer, hand-rolled cigars, and a 33 tap growler beer fill station. As well as a small-scale cafe with seating, offering warm pretzels, pastries, paninis, soups, salads, ice cream, and other light bites. Certainly light bites to complement the beer as well. Kombucha and local sodas we talked about as well for growler fills too. So it's not just beer. So we'll be looking to install a wall sign similarly to how Mr. French has his sign currently on the building, as well as a ground sign 3 feet back from the sidewalk.
And the signs, they all conform in square feet. Have you seen the plans for those plans?
They'll have to submit a sign application.
Yeah, we don't
You'll
have
have to
the
submit
specific,
a
it
sign, yeah.
is legally 2 businesses under 1 roof, which is slightly different than what we anticipated, but due to the Department of Liquor Control and how they organize it, that's the way it has to be.
You mean your business will be 2 businesses under 1 roof?
Yeah, it has to be.
But one for the food service?
Right,
And
and-
one for the retail?
Well, for us, we're more of the beer side expertise. We currently own a liquor store and market in Wilmington, and we wanted to do a growler fill station that also offered an ability to do tastings of it, or a flight of beer, sit down, have a pint, but those are definitely conflicting licenses with the Department of Liquor Control. So we kind of sat with them and petitioned to them to figure out a way that it could work. And it's,
Gotcha.
you have 2 businesses under 1, but we can make it as cohesive as we want, but you could come into the retail side and leave versus coming on the cafe side.
And that's all in the brick building?
Yes.
Right. So what, will there be another door?
There doesn't have to be another door, but so we have to make it ADA compliant, obviously, because it's a full renovation on the inside. So you'll kind of come in and then you can just enter. It will be slightly narrow, the retail side, to a wall of taps. And then on the serving side, it could be us working there. It doesn't have to be 2 people.
Gotcha.
Just you can then float to the other side for the serving. So
you
essentially
have to keep the 2 spaces separate?
you have to have like a shoulder height wall to delineate the 2 spaces.
I see.
And the downfall to us financially is you have to, if we have 33 beers on tap, you have to have 33 beers on the tasting side. So in your walk-in cooler, you have to have a line to, show the 2 different licenses.
Wow.
But it's possible.
Bureaucracy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I see you're asked, there are 12 parking spaces at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if they're officially drawn in.
I see 11 in a line on the, or that'd be the west side of the property, and then that 12 by the dumpster, is that to indicate a 12th space?
Well, it actually how the property, we have more of a, it will be our property, but we have a kind of a right of way through a horseshoe shape. So the current property next to us is the Asian Gourmet. They can also park over there, as well as the tenants. It is kind of,
Yeah, I think I remember that when we had the other building here.
Yeah,
That whole issue about circulation and whatnot and parking.
right.
Okay. Any changes in Landscaping?
We'll certainly have some beautification outside, nothing too much because it's really a small space. Having more windows and opening up as large windows as possible on that, I guess that would be the west side, would be our goal. We originally talked about glass garage doors that could open up so the space could be very free, but after sitting with the health inspector, that certainly cannot happen.
Is there anything now, any landscaping at all in front of those? There's nothing in
It
there?
looks-
There's minimal to,
Yeah.
you know, maybe a flower bed about the size of this table.
Yeah, it seems like it seems
right near
even
the
less.
entrance.
Not much.
Yeah.
So it-
Yeah. And
Bas-
all the rest of it's asphalt, I guess.
Yeah, most of the, I guess, the look of the building and property will come from, you know, added windows, basically to gain curbside appearance.
Yeah, hanging plants.
Because it's kind of bland right now, it's just a brick building with.
And like you said, though, there is a little green space about the size of that table. right?
Yeah,
Right in
I
front.
don't think it's quite this big, but I'd say it's like this big.
But we will definitely do something for that.
Right.
That's
So
it.
when I drove by there this weekend, it was bare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it needs some love, for sure.
You don't seem to have space, but I don't know it exactly, or any plans for outside seating of any type?
We would like to in the future offer rooftop seating, but we know that we would have to go through a lot of hoops because there's the residential space atop the Asian Gourmet, as well as the fire marshal told us, you know, where's your elevator going to be? So that's obviously a huge financial undertaking.
And your energy use, is that all gonna stay the same, be heating the same way?
No, right now it's oil and it's a older unit on top of the roof that it's like forced air. So we talked with the energy efficiency folks to completely do a new system. That's is the most cost effective to us.
A little more efficient.
Yeah, a lot more efficient.
Okay, and there's an issue with the dumpster, and that should be screened.
That dumpster is actually not on our property currently.
Uh-huh.
That's the Asian Gourmet's dumpster.
And, what, will you have a dumpster?
We will definitely have to. Most of our goal is to do reusable takeaway items, ball jars with lids, and different salads and that for the takeaway items with a small deposit fee to cover our costs. So we're not anticipating a lot of things to dump, but we will have to have a trash for sure. And we talked about we'd have to get permission from them because they have biodiesel barrels too. That I think is it biodiesel when you can fill up
Your oil?
your vehicles?
Yeah, so, like.
Yeah, waste oil.
Yeah.
So there's like 5 of
Restaurants.
those there with a dumpster that's, to me is crooked and stuff. So we are gonna ask with their permission if we can put a screen that just kind of can open like some kind of fence door to make it a little more curb appeal.
Brian, will this applicant be returning with a more detailed plan of any sort, or is this it right here?
No, this is it. They're not really planning changes to the existing site plan, which seems to be functioning.
Well, I don't know, I don't see. There's a memo from the fire department. You are required to submit a construction application to the Vermont Division of Fire Safety.
Yeah.
Before you'll be issued a permit.
Yep.
From the state. And should that be in this as a condition?
There's a condition that they have to get state permits, so it's kind of an umbrella condition.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, we already met with them. We told them basically what we want to do, and it's based off of square footage of your building and the seating you choose for how many you can actually seat. One thing we do know that we have to do is increase the water. So that'll be the first financial venture.
The size of the water pipe?
Yeah, that's kind of no wiggle room there, but yeah, we already met with the fire marshal. Our biggest concern was the Department of Liquor Control because they tend to clash sometimes, so it's impossible to get everybody under one roof, but we just want to make sure we're doing everything right. So we've actually already met with a lot of the officials before we meet with the architect to drop the plan.
Will they need a certificate of occupancy before they actually open?
Yes.
So,
yep,
all these things will be rechecked.
Yep.
I like the
Alrighty.
dumpsters, are spot numbers 10 and 11, are those actually on the other guy's property too?
Yeah, Bill, you might be able to answer that, but I think where the dumpster is about 10 feet past where our property line would end.
The two dumpsters are drawn here, right? On your drawing, there shows actually 2 dumpsters. It seems like there is
I
a
don't
couple
have the drawing.
dumpsters out there.
Yeah, I don't think I have the.
Can I look at one?
This one has the same thing on it. You're welcome to grab it. Yeah.
I was just curious if these 2 spots right here are on the same different piece that these 2 dumpsters are drawn on.
They're not on the property. The property that they're buying
Yeah.
ends here.
Is that, right?
But there's a shared
Parking
parking with common rights of way,
Right.
so there's no designated parking. But I think what you're hoping to do is be able to put the dumpster back. in.
Sneak another one in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Plus, there's actually parking on the street in that area also, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we
So-
met with the West Brattleboro Association too, to, make sure we're in lines of their vision and, we're not stepping on anybody's toes for future plans. And it sounds like they're very excited to have a coffee shop and a gathering place in town.
Is the dumpster that's there now screened?
No,
But that belongs to the property next door?
it does. The building owner, yeah, not the business, but the
then-
building owner.
It indicates on your map that your dumpster would go in front of theirs, essentially.
Yeah, we're kind of hoping to have them side by side, something that just looks as nice as possible. There's garden space to the right of where the current dumpsters are, next to the
Right.
housing property.
And that's actually on their property, right?
It's actually, the garden space is actually the person who owns the Asian Gourmet building. It's their property, but they obviously let the tenants use it as garden space.
How do we get these dumpsters screened?
Well, it said that you would ask them permission to maybe do the screening. for
Yeah,
them.
we want, just for
And you could
aesthetics
screen
of
both of yours at the
ourselves.
same time. You could screen both of
we would
them
just
off
do
at the
it,
same time.
and then.
And it
you
wouldn't
know,
affect,
It'd be a bonus for them.
Yeah.
yeah, to us, it would be something that we would pay for, and I can't imagine they would object to that.
Okay. Well, I don't have any more questions here. Does anybody else?
The other thing, we talked to some of the tenants too to figure out if they've had any issues currently right now, because in theory, hopefully, we would bring in more traffic, and we just want to make sure that their spots, aren't filled. So we don't have a right to put any sign, but we're going to ask the current owner of the Asian Gourmet and the tenants if we can designate tenant spots, so it doesn't affect their, living.
There's also parking across the street, right? Across,
Yeah, there's a
near the
little dirt
fire-
lot
near the
there.
fire
Yep.
station,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there's-
right.
behind the fire station, right across the street.
Also by the.
There's spots, there's marked spots all on the common there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
we expect to get a decent amount of pedestrians.
That's our hope too. There's a crosswalk, right next to the bus route too, so. And Brattleboro Housing is right behind the building, so I could bring in more folks too.
Okay, well, we'll need a motion to approve the renovation of the building, and along with the condition that the dumpster be screened in. I don't know what else, everything else are required permits, et cetera. Is there anything else that should be?
I'm not sure we can require them to screen in the other person's dumpster though, right? She's gonna talk to them about it, but I don't think we can require them to screen in somebody else's property. Is all.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
But they,
True.
yeah. I mean, they're gonna do it anyways. It sounds like it'd be good for their business and everything. I'm just worried.
Actually, that's an interesting issue because.
Well, there
you
is
have-
space.
You have permission to put your dumpster beside theirs.
We do not have permission in writing.
Oh,
Where we could put it is on the back of the building. There's already a loading dock, and there is space right there if we wanted to put our dumpster. But just,
If
again,
you had to.
aesthetically, it would make sense to
it can
have them
stay
all.
on your property, and if it's on
Yeah.
your property, then it's hidden behind the building.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it would be so much to just go with the same company they go with, and then that person just does everything all
Yeah.
at once.
And to screen off, everything that they have right now would just, again, aesthetically look a lot more appealing
All right, okay.
for our business.
Well, I don't know, have I missed anything, Brian?
No, it sounds good, Spoon.
Okay, well, can we have a motion to, so moved, a second? A second. All those in favor? All right. That's it, thank you very much.
Great.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Awesome. Good luck, you guys. I hope it goes great.
Thank
I'll
you.
visit.
Excited.
So is the Asian gourmet, is that what used to be Panda West?
Is it the same people?
It's down here.
Is it the same people with a new name? Or is it new people?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Oh, that's right, They call it-
And Spoon, you gotta officially dismiss us.
Kept saying Asian gourmet, I couldn't figure out what.
They just switched it probably.
You gotta officially dismiss us.
Oh, yes. Motion to adjourn? A motion to adjourn.
With everybody.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A second?
Have a good evening.
You too.
Well, it's almost
All in
over.
favor?